Good evening. This meeting of the City of Socorro City Council
Unmuted.
is set to begin. Gentlemen, please remove your hats, and everyone please silence all electronic equipment. No disruptive behavior or outbursts will be tolerated, and violators are subject to ejection and possible prosecution. Buenas tardes. La Junta del Concilio de la Ciudad de Socorro está por empezar. Caballeros, favor de quitarse las cachuchas y sombreros, y todos favor de poner en silencio todo equipo electrónico. No se va a tolerar ningún tipo de comportamiento perjudicial o revoltoso. A quien no siga estas reglas,
Good afternoon. It's 6:02. This meeting is called to order. Item number 2, Pledge of Allegiance and moment of silence. We got students from Healy Elementary School. Item number 3, recognition to elementary students from Healy Elementary School. Item number 4, establishment of quorum.
Mayor Ivy Avalos is absent. Cesar Nevares.
Here.
Alejandro Garcia.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Ruben Reyes.
Here.
Rudy Cruz.
Here.
And Ivan Colom Villalobos.
Here.
We'd like to acknowledge and welcome the SISD board members.
Our SISD school board members are Mr. Paul Guerra, Mr. Pablo Barrera, Mr. Richard Castellano, and new superintendent, Mr. Dr. Carmen.
Item number 5, public comment.
Our first speaker is Javier Paz from the Office of Commissioner Holguin. Mr. Paz, you have 3 minutes.
Hello. Hello, Council. Hello, Community Socorro. I just wanted to give an update from the Office of Commissioner Eliana Holguin, and I just wanted to give some an update from the county. You might have seen some of these flyers on your seat. One of the things that we were able to pass, the county was able to pass this last week, was extensions for free rides on buses. So anywhere from the county, any kind of county transportation will be free. The El Paso County Transit is offering free rides beginning April 1st, 2022, September 30th, 2022. Due to the recent increase in gas prices across the nation, El Paso Transit would like to offer free rides to users for the next 6 months. If you have any questions about the unincorporated parts of Socorro, today is about municipal, but any other outside of the city, please feel free to call, email, or call us. I left cards on all of our on the seats, and we'll be happy to help you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Miriam Cruz. Ms. Cruz, you have 3 minutes.
Thank you, Ms. Navarro.
Good evening, council. I decided to come today in person because I've been told that you guys can't hear me too well when I call in. And so I hope that if you don't understand anything or that you can't hear me clearly, that you let me know so that I can repeat myself. Today I do have some important things that I want to say on some of the items, and so I would ask that if for some reason you don't understand me, that you let me know so that I can make myself clear. That's actually it. Thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem, those were all our speakers.
Okay. Moving along to presentations, item 6, recognition to the 2022 Campus Teacher of the Year of the Socorro Feeder Pattern.
Hello, everybody. Thank you for coming. This is my item. I'm very excited to do this. As long as I'm in office, this will happen every year. The City of Socorro Council is honored to support excellent and dedicated educators for the Socorro Feeder Pattern 2022 Campus Teacher of the Year. Today, the City of Socorro Council is pleased to introduce the 2020 Campus Teachers of the Year. These teachers represented the kind of passion and purpose that defines the best in the profession. Excellent educators have always been the most important resource to ensure student success, and they have stepped up in many ways throughout the last few years. Throughout the COVID pandemic, America's teachers have worked in often extraordinary circumstances and find new and creative ways to keep students safe and healthy while accelerating learning and supporting student well-being. Okay, so we're gonna ask that everybody step up and receive their recognition, okay? See if you guys can hear me. Campestre Elementary, Patricia Flores. Ernesto Serna, María S. Andrade. Escondidas Elementary, Rina Hernandez. She's represented by the principal, Mr. Jesse Aguirre. H.D. Hilly, Emilio Estrada. Waco Elementary, Joanna Hernandez. She is represented by Daisy Garcia, principal. Robert Rojas Elementary, David M. Arteaga. Salvador Sanchez, Janet Quesada. Socorro High School, Angie Soray. This is Dr. Estorga, principal of Socorro High School. Socorro Middle, Bernice Cardenas. I would like to invite our school board reps and our new superintendent to come up here for a picture. Thank you.
Ay, sí.
A tattoo?
Yeah.
You got a tattoo?
No, no.
Oh.
It's legit. I know that at all times.
He says he can't
I
find them.
know when not to what to because
He
check
can't
it out
find them.
whatever after we eat.
Eyeglasses. You guys don't have extras? No.
You get it, make sure you get it away. No, just make sure you get this.
No, I left them at
Her
home.
son was gonna bring it.
I took them off my head to wash them.
You didn't give him a, oh, no.
Yeah. So I told him to check. Maybe I left them on the sink where I was washing them. You know? Yeah. No veo nada.
Mayor Pro Tem.
We're gonna do 7 first one.
Okay.
Como quieras.
Guess.
Item number 7, monthly update to City Council and Socorro residents regarding the MPO. Mr. Cruz Jr.
Thank you. So I requested that TextUp provide us with the information that's been displayed at both the MPO and it's been made public to all residents here in the county. And what I wanted to do is just go over the TextDot update. It's pretty brief. You'll see some items in there that are gonna show some areas of improvement that aren't necessarily the city of Socorro, but I think the majority of it here is Socorro. And these are the Socorro area projects. And I'll direct you all to the FM 258 speed study. You'll see that there's some areas there that don't pertain to the city of Socorro. However, the speed study was done throughout the entire corridor along Socorro. So most of us who live here in Socorro and commute back and forth on that road, we've noticed the change in speed limit. It varies quite often. It'll jump from 30 to 45 back to 50, and then once you head out to San Elizario and Clint area, it'll pick up. So they've done the corridor study because it only makes sense to do these studies in order to create a smoother flow of traffic. And by doing that, what the city of Socorro, alongside partners with TxDOT, have been working on is trying to create a pattern that's going to help cars flow, a lot quicker and smoother and stuff like that. So you won't see such drastic changes from 30 to 50 and whatnot. And I'll explain as I move along. I'll direct you to the traffic signal retiming project. So what that project is alongside the corridor study, TxDOT has taken the initiative in providing information, and they use a lot of technical data. They use a lot of tools that they put up. They place cameras on several of our poles so that they can track this information and bring it back to the city. What this allows us to do is to understand what happens on our roads. And so in doing so, the signal retiming project is pretty much the light synchronization. When one light turns green, all the lights turn green. When one light turns red, they will all turn red. What that allows to happen is there's a lot of pedestrian crossing now on the old historic Mission Trail, where the mission is at. There's a lot of businesses that are established there, and there's a lot of pedestrian crossing. So what we want to do is we want to allow a safe way for our pedestrians to cross. There are some cyclists and people who walk in the afternoons, making it a lot safer. I'll direct you down to the black line, which shows the Socorro Road and Buford. This is a traffic signal warranted. The design has not yet began and it's not funded yet, but it does warrant a traffic signal light right there on Socorro Road and Buford. And then I'll direct you down to the raised median. This right here is not going to begin until January of 2024. And this is on Rio Vista to Passmore. You'll see some raised medians going up along Horizon Boulevard and whatnot, and you'll see some going on along Alameda. And if you look down at the light turquoise area there that shows the safety lighting intersections, this right here is going to take you from the FM 1281 Horizon to the FM 1111. This is a proposed letting year of 2025 for the installation of the intersections and traffic lights. And then I'll move you over to the right side. You'll see the Horizon Boulevard and Stockyard Drive. You'll see that a traffic signal is also going to take place, a reconstruction, and that's in July of this year. And then we move down to North Loop Drive. There was a speed study done in 2019, and that's also going to decrease the speed limit from 55 to 45 miles an hour, again, making our roadways a lot much safer here in the city of Socorro. And then we'll move down to the North Loop Drive in Bowman. You'll see that there's a traffic signal under design. It's about 90% design finished, and that begins in June of 2024. And then when we go down, you'll see the street name signs on the traffic signal here. These are still under design, and they're supposed to take place just right now during spring of this year. The traffic signal retiming project is also going to take place along Alameda as well, and that began this year in February of 2022. We'll go to the next slide here. I'm sorry, can you go back up? I'm looking at the traffic signal synchronization. Right, yes, thank you. So you'll see that here's a map of all the traffic signal retiming. This is the project, and this is what it consists of. It was implemented back in November of last year. And you'll see that all the little yellow X's here are all the street lights that are going to get retimed. This is what the project consists of for the retiming of these lights. And you'll go down to the next slide, which is the speed study. Okay, it's a chart. It's really hard to see from where you're at. It's also hard to see from where I'm sitting as well. But right here, it'll show you, and again, this information has been made public. And what it shows you here is it's the analysis that was done by TxDOT. And it's showing you the current speed limit and the proposed speed limit and the areas of Socorro Road from where the speed limit's going to change and how it's going to enter into our city and exit out of our city. Again, very important. It's going to help traffic flow a lot smoother. We'll go down to the collision diagram on the next slide. So this collision diagram right here will show you all the accidents between Moon Road and Apodaca Road. This study was done, or data was collected between the years of 2018 and 2021. It'll show you that there's been pedestrians struck, there's been cyclists struck, there's been other accidents and such. Again, we request this information because we want to make sure that we're making good, sound decisions here on the table when we go to actually invest your all's money in traffic lights and pedestrian crossings and whatnot, or the request for just safety lighting. This is the information that we request from TxDOT so that we're able to make these decisions for you all. You'll go down to the collision diagram. The next one here will show you on Socorro Road also between Buford Road and Belen Street, again, between the years of 2018 and 2021. You'll see every single line that's on that map right there was a collision or a person being struck. No fatalities were reported. That's the good thing. And we want to keep that from happening. This table here wants to be proactive and not reactive. We want to make sure that we address all these concerns and issues from our residents before something happens. We'll go down to the pedestrian cyclist study setup. You'll see here that there were cameras placed facing east and south on Socorro Road. Again, these are the tools that TxDOT uses in order to conduct their study. You'll see the west-north camera as well. You'll see the pedestrian study area that's in between Apodaca and Buford Road. We'll go down to the next slide. Again, very similar to what I spoke about in the previous slide here. The pedestrian cyclist count here was done between Apodaca and Buford Road on Socorro, and this was done in October of last year. The hours that they used were 3 p.m. all the way to Monday at 1 p.m. The reason for that is because TxDOT uses the special formulas and calculations, and they want to make sure that they're collecting data from both morning, daytime, afternoons, and then nighttime. This allows us, again, to make better decisions in what we're going to do in our streets. And then you'll scroll down to the next one. Again, it's another pedestrian cyclist count. And so just so you all know, the year before, the city had requested this study to be conducted, and the pedestrian crossing was not warranted. The reason why is because they did not have enough people crossing, either walking or cycling or anything of that nature. If we scroll down to the traffic signal warranted slide, next one, right there. This one right here is going to show within a couple of months, they showed that now it is warranted. Again, business has been picking up on Socorro Road in that area on the historic Mission Trail. So now we are looking at a pedestrian warning flasher and the new limits. And you'll see the pedestrian warning flasher. It's about 60% in its design. I want to say that's a little bit more right now. They're also warranting a traffic signal as well on Socorro Road, a little bit past Buford. There you can see that. And if you go down to the next slide, we'll look at the rectangular rapid flashing beacon. I wanted to show you all that this is what's being proposed by TxDOT. And what it is, it's going to be somewhat of an island with the pedestrian crossing and the flashing lights. This is going to help slow down traffic during the afternoon hours when the pedestrians are crossing more often in that area. And you'll see a picture there in the bottom right, just to show you and give you an idea of what it might look like on Socorro Road. You go down to the next slide, you'll see exactly what it'll look like once it's been installed on Socorro Road, and that's between Serenity Ranch and the Three Missions Brewery. And then we'll go down to the existing lighting conditions. The City of Socorro has been working diligently in providing you all with adequate lighting for your late night commutes and in the afternoons. We do understand that Socorro is a landlocked city. It's a very old city, and we understand that it can be challenging at times to install and bring in the infrastructure for additional lighting. But with what's existing, we want to work hand in hand with El Paso Electric, TxDOT to see what we can do to make things better. Again, making good sound decisions, using your money to the fullest, and making these streets brighter for you all. And you'll see again, it's just a map, and it'll show you existing lighting, and it'll show you proposed additional lighting. If you scroll down to the next slide, this is the process to adding lighting. As you all know, the request must come from our city. We work with budgets. We want to make sure that we remain within our budget. This is an annual budget that the city works up. We requested information, and you're looking at the type of light that's going to be used. They're 250 watts. Approximately, the cost per light is $1,500. Again, that's an approximate amount. And also, as you all know, the electrical monthly cost will be covered by the City of Socorro. So any additional lighting, other than what we have right now, that's another cost that the city will incur if we move forward with installing the additional lighting. You'll go to the next slide here. This is just the Border Highway East study. It really doesn't pertain to our city, but there are parts of our city that are involved in here. And it just shows you the different routes that TxDOT is proposing for traffic to exit and enter our city. Again, making our commutes quicker than before. And if you scroll to the last slide here, this will show you each recommended project and future studies. It'll show you and it'll give you on what phase they are in. Feasibility studies are being conducted right now as we speak on several of these projects. Nothing's been set in stone on a bunch of these. Again, studies have to occur before we can actually move forward. There's meetings that are going to take place. Again, we want to make sure that we hear from the residents if there's any concerns or issues. And this is just a list and number of projects that TxDOT's been working on here in the Valley. And that concludes the presentation that I have here for our MPO and traffic update.
Thank you.
Thank you,
That
Mr.
was
Cruz.
excellent. Thank you.
Mayor,
Mr. Garcia.
I'd like to move item 36, please.
Can you speak into the mic?
Make a motion to move item 36, please.
Second.
Cesar Nevares,
Yes.
Alejandro Garcia,
Aye.
Rudy Cruz,
Yes?
and Ivan Colom Villalobos.
Hey, yes.
Item number 36, discussion and action on approving Resolution 692 and 693 for redistricting to receive training and initial assessment presentation of the implications of the 2020 census and consider approval of resolutions establishing criteria for modifying City Council electoral districts and guidelines for the submission of citizen maps.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. On September 16, 2021, Council approved to hire Borges Law Firm to start the redistricting process based on the 2020 census count. Today, we have Resin Pullum from the Borges Law Firm presenting the redistricting training, initial assessment, and resolution briefing to the City Council. Welcome, Mr. Pullum.
Thank you, Adriana. Mayor Pro Tem, City Council, citizens of Socorro, and city staff, it's a pleasure to be in front of you today, this evening. My name is Rezin Pullum. I am one of the municipal attorneys that works with the Borges law firm. I grew up on the opposite side of town of Texas from Socorro. I grew up all the way in Tyler, Texas, which is east. And just some of the experiences that I've had, I am a member of the Texas City Attorneys Association, and I had the pleasure of working as a presiding judge in Harris County elections 3 times within the past 2 years. And that's a little bit about me, but more about what we're here to talk about today and what I'm presenting, and that is redistricting. So the agenda for this presentation is to go over what redistricting is, how it's done, why we even need to do it, and then also discuss the initial assessment, which is our initial look and observation of your existing city council districts, and then it also has our recommendation for continuing with the redistricting process. So you'll get a summary of that, and you'll be able to see the population demographics and data available for each of the districts, broken down by district and by race. Then lastly, we're recommending the passage of 2 resolutions, which would establish the guidelines and criteria for the redistricting process, one for the city to abide by, and then the second one being for any citizen maps that are submitted from outside interested parties. That could be citizens, that could be advocacy groups, that could be city council members outside of the city and representing their district. So talking a little bit about what redistricting is, it's the process of drawing and changing the boundaries from which your representatives are elected from. This occurs at all levels, the federal level, the state level, and obviously the local level. It's based on the data that we receive from the U.S. Census Bureau, from the census that's taken every 10 years. The census tries to mark where residents live on the date of April 1st, 2020. Is it not full screen? Let me see. Yes, please make the presentation full screen. What that does, or what that allows us to do, is to look at how the districts are made up and to see and make sure that we're abiding by the 1 person, 1 vote principle. We'll talk about that a little bit more as this presentation goes along. So what is redistricting about? It's easy to say that it's about math and it's about numbers. It's about the streets, what streets, what neighborhoods belong to each of these electoral districts. But what I think it's really about, it's about people. It's about having the neighborhoods and communities for the city of Socorro built and made by the people and representative of those members in those neighborhoods. One of the things that we look at are communities of interest, and we try to maintain that so that your representatives are speaking on behalf of you. You feel as though you're having your neighbors represent you and your constituents. And it's about making sure that everybody's vote counts essentially the same. That is a huge part of the process in balancing each of the districts. So what we look at is all of the statistics, but here you're seeing the numbers for the state of Texas. The 2010 numbers showed us right above 25 million. Now we're right under 29, or right under 30 million. Let me at least pause to make sure that my presentation is showing. Are you seeing the Texas 2020 census statistics slide?
So, Mr. Pullman, your slide was stuck on the main screen, so we went ahead and stopped sharing your screen, and then we're sharing it remotely now through our screen.
Okay, I think I know what happened.
You're on slide 16, is that correct?
Yes. Is that showing the correct screen? I'm sorry.
Correct. So slide 16 is showing Socorro's population data from 2010 and 2020.
Let's see, make sure. Are you able to see the Texas 2020 statistics slide?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So just talking a little bit about the makeup, one thing that, is notable is the Hispanic population is growing tremendously in the state of Texas, almost to the point where it's becoming the plurality district or plurality race that's represented in the state of Texas. There are 5 legal principles that govern this process and that are going to guide us as we go through and make some of the changes that are going to be necessary to get those districts balanced. Those 5 principles include your home rule charter. It determines the makeup of your electoral districts and how many representatives you have. We also talk about the one person, one vote constitutional principle that's derived from U.S. Supreme Court cases Baker versus Carr and Reynolds versus Sims. What that essentially means is that the electoral districts have to be made up equally so that each person's vote counts just the same as it would in another district. We also discuss and have to follow the rules of the Section 2 U.S. Voting Rights Act as federal legislation that allows us to look at the underutilized and minority groups that have been protected by the federal law. So there'll be a slide that discusses that. Also, you have the Shaw versus Reno line of cases, which is another federal Supreme Court case that allows race to be used as one of the factors. However, it limits the use of race to where it cannot be the predominant factor in subordination of other traditional redistricting criteria. What you'll see in the resolutions that we have before you tonight, we include a lot of those traditional criteria and those that have been proven by the law to be good standard guidelines to base this redistricting process off of. Lastly, we have the Texas election laws. In order to change a boundary and for it to be effective for an election, it has to be passed and in place at least 3 months prior to the election date. So with the City of Socorro having the November election dates, the changes to the boundaries that we would make would need to be in place by August. Our timeline computes that and calculates that into everything we need to do, and we would be done in advance of that August date. So looking at your city charter, what it requires is that your city council consists of the mayor and 5 council members. Of those 5 council members that are elected, 1 is elected from each of the 4 districts, and then you have 1 council member at large. That tells us all the things that we need to know as far as the makeup of the city, how the citizens are voting, and the aspersion and how they are split amongst each of the districts. The one person, one vote constitutional principle, as I said, it essentially requires that there is substantially equal population in each of the districts from which citizens are electing their representatives. It does not require that the population is exactly equal, but one of the tools that we use in calculating and making sure this is present in the process is called a total maximum deviation. That tool or that calculation says that there cannot be a deviation between the largest district in the city of Socorro and the smallest district that exceeds 10%. So what we do, we compare your total population and divide it by the number of districts you have. And that gives us the ideal population that each district should be representative of. With that, we, as I said, compare your largest and smallest, and we get that total maximum deviation. We'll discuss a little bit more the math with the actual numbers for each of the districts so that it's more understandable and you can see the numbers at work itself. As I said, Section 2 of the U.S. Voting Rights Act, what it actually does is make sure that the process does not disenfranchise the minority members, which are a protected group under this federal legislation. And it ensures that every person, every citizen has the fair opportunity and ability to participate in the political process. That means they can elect the candidates of their choice. They have the power and the means to do so. And districts aren't drawn in a way to where it disenfranchises or it disadvantages those minority groups in electing who they want to elect. The key points of this is to avoid cracking and packing, which will be demonstrated in these next slides. So this is just one option of how districts could be drawn. It's not the perfect ideal option, but it is representative of one way that it can happen. As you see, you have 4 districts here. There's a plurality of the kind of teal shirts there in that first green district. You're seeing a red majority here in this yellow district. You're seeing a blue majority over here, and then it's kind of equal here in this purple, but you got a little bit more blue. Just a little bit of an idea of how the district lines could be drawn to make up the citizens of this ideal city. Now, to illustrate cracking, the actual members and color shirts did not change position, rather the district lines and where they are drawn changed position. So the idea of cracking is the act of diluting the voting power across multiple districts. Whereas the red population probably could have had a plurality or a majority in one of these districts, you see that they are drawn in a way to where the red population does not have any power to elect that representative of their choice. That's because they've been spread out in a way that dilutes their voting power. If there's a challenge under Section 2 and it is found that race was used in a predominant way to draw these lines, then you'll be subject to liability in changing those lines to where it's more representative. Packing is almost the opposite. It's where you're taking one population and concentrating their voting power in one district where it could have been spread out and held amongst multiple districts. Here you're seeing up here in this green district, whereas the persons and places did not change, but the actual district lines changed. You see most of the red population is concentrated in this district here. With that being the case, it's the same type of standard and we look to see if race was a substantial part in the drawing of that district. If so, it also leaves you to subject to liability under that Section 2. So what we do is we take all of this into consideration when we're doing our draft maps and considering those criteria that we have in those resolutions. Lastly, here we have the Shaw versus Reno line of cases. It is federal legislation from the Supreme Court that essentially says that race can be considered and should be used in this process, but not so much to where it outweighs the regular factors that are considered for redistricting. Those factors can include, incumbents where they might live, communities of interest, keeping neighborhoods, parks together, whatever you identify as the citizens and the city council of Socorro as important, those things have to also be in the mix on top of race. Now, if race is the predominant consideration, it has to be narrowly tailored to where it is serving a compelling interest. If there is a history of past discrimination, to address that using race would be a compelling interest. But here, this is one of the guiding principles that we use to make sure that we're doing this process as legally as possible. So now kind of begins the initial assessment and the look at the data that we've received from the U.S. Census Bureau. As you can see, the population in 2010 was 32,013 citizens. That's from the U.S. Census Bureau website. Also from the census, the population for 2020, which would have been April 1st, came in right under 35,000 at exactly 34,359 citizens. The demographic makeup of the city of Socorro consists of majority Hispanic population, that being 96% of the population there in the city. One thing that is going to be important for us is maintaining the proportional power in each of the districts and making sure not to, fall into those areas of diluting or cracking or packing under those Section 2 guiding principles. When we're talking about the initial assessment, some of the key things are going to be, like we said, the total population. When we divide that by the number of districts you have, which is 4, you get an ideal district size of 8,590 people per single member district. When we look at that and what is the actual existing number of people in each district, that's how we get our total maximum deviation or total deviation. We compare what is actually in the district to the ideal size of 8,590. And if there's a deviation from the biggest and smallest districts that is above 10, we have to redistrict. Here is a chart that shows you what the districts are composed of. So you're seeing District 2 is going to be your smallest district, and District 4 is your largest district by population size. Easily, you can kind of see that the deviations are well above 10%, but to get the actual total deviation that we're looking at, you have to add the raw values of those numbers of the largest and the smallest districts. So the math will be presented further in these slides. As I said, when you take that number of 34,359 and divide it by the 4 districts, you get an ideal population size of 8,590. This is just another breakdown of the chart that was seen in the earlier slides, which has been provided and will be available for the citizens online as well. When we take those 2 numbers, which is District 4 is coming in at a deviation of 16.09% above the ideal size district, we add that with the 12.12% deviation from the smallest district, you get a current total deviation of 28.21%. Now that is well above the 10% maximum permissible range that's been established by law in court case. And that tells us that we have to redistrict. Excuse me. Now, what that consists of in the actual process, it has begun and will begin today with consideration of these resolutions. But there is a ton of things in which we would do between here and the time which we plan to adopt that final ordinance. One of those being compiling that initial preference. What we'll do is kind of get the ideals of the staff forward, back and forth, what is called an illustrative map, which is an internal version intended for informal feedback and just direct communication on what immediately works and things that need to be maintained within the city council boundaries. From there, what that becomes is a draft map, because it is based on that informal feedback. It then becomes available for the public to see with all of the data demographics broken down and able to view and evaluate. And also available for public comment. A lot of this process really is about civic engagement. It's about involving the citizens of Socorro and the representatives that they have chosen. We are open to doing town hall meetings if necessary. We have done that in the past, and we have gathered and made sure to send out notice to interested parties and advocacy groups so that they are aware that we're doing this for the city of Socorro and can submit their input. Then you go into what is the map drawing. As I said, it involves these types of maps. We put a deadline on when we'll receive maps from citizens, but we encourage all outside parties to try to give comment or at least consideration to the maps that will be available. And if you have the ability and means to submit a map, we ask that it at least be written, and we'll consider that in our drawings of each of the illustrations. Lastly, what it ends with is the adoption of a new plan by City Council. And that plan, when it is adopted, will be in place for the next upcoming elections that will take place in November. Our last document that we submit during this process is a final report that essentially outlines everything we've done from day one of being engaged as the law firm to represent and take the city of Socorro through this process. You'll have all of the notices, the letters that we send out, all of the maps, the illustrations, the meeting agendas, everything communicated and that we lay our eyes on will be in that final report, along with defensible and credible analysis for why the city chose to adopt its final map. In talking about this, the last thing that we have on our agenda today is to recommend and consider the resolutions that will establish the guidelines for this redistricting process. The points that you see here are indeed in the resolution, and it is part of all of this training in which we have provided in this presentation. It includes those things, like I said, identifying those communities of interest, making sure those constituents that are historically represented in a district should have that ability to be maintained should they express that interest. Avoiding splitting up neighborhoods, historic neighborhoods, parks, associations with schools, things of that nature. One of the things that we look at in this process are the voting precincts. They make up the state and district voting polling places. There is a smaller amount or a smaller guide that we look at, which are the census blocks. But in this process, what we try to do is make sure that the voting precincts are maintained, because it's easier whenever you coordinate with the counties and send their maps and updates as we are required to do by the law. All the other criteria which you see have kind of been discussed here. One of those is preservation of incumbent constituency relations. Basically, that means we're not going to intentionally remove a council member from their district unless they ask to be removed from their district, but that would upset the balance and the recognition of the voters and what they have chosen. They would be representing another district based on their residence. We try not to do that. And then also the not cracking and packing, which was mentioned in the Section 2 Voting Rights Act. And then obviously, whatever plan that we put forth will be below that 10% total maximum deviation that is permissible by law. The guidelines for the citizen map submissions, they are very much similar to those in which the city will follow. Only things that we specify and distinguish is that it be submitted in writing. This does not mean that they have to have the program or CAD to actually have the maps drawn, but whatever comments, you ask that it be submitted in writing, it be legible. If it's describing what streets or what districts you would like to see moved to whatever district, that is very much an item that we would consider. Anything that is just plain oral does not give us the full opportunity to evaluate and assess how that could help or be represented in the ideals and makeup of the districts. As that, we try to show the total population of the districts, kind of similar to the demographics in which we would provide to the city. If there, in instances, we have taken a crude drawing of a map or a representation and provided the demographics for the citizens, to the best of our ability of imitating their wishes in the makeup of the map. That is also possible. You know, we want to make this process as transparent as possible so that everybody feels they had a chance and opportunity to participate. There is a deadline that is established for this ordinance, that being a little more than a month out from this date and this presentation. We're asking that any type of comments or any type of submission of a map be submitted by May 5th of next month. That way, that gives us enough time to consider all of that, to put forth the presentations and the maps that we need to consider and get the data in there that needs to be looked at. And lastly, just a blanket covering to conform to the criteria that the city has, bound itself to in these principles. As I said, process is heavily involved with civic engagement. We have initially planned for 2 public hearings, one of those to just kind of introduce and put forth the last iterations and versions of the map, and to give the public the opportunity to comment at the meeting live so that we're hearing the voices of the citizens. We're also utilizing as much social media and web internet interface as possible. The maps, the notices will be posted on the City of Socorro's website and coordinated with the city staff to have as much notice and transparency as possible. One thing we try to do in every process is identify those organizations who have either expressed interest in the past or have a impact in the community and want to know about this redistricting process. So we offer those abilities and those things to the City of Socorro so that this process is smooth and involves everyone that needs to be a part of it. Our recommended timeline for that first public hearing is proposed for May 19th. That way we're right in line to continue to have meetings to plan for anything else between here and now, any type of hiccups or any type of reports or data that wants to be represented. That gives us enough time. The latest day that we would recommend the adoption of the ordinance would be on July 21st. That is simply because the first day to file for a place on the ballot is July 23rd. We want everybody, every candidate, every incumbent to know exactly what districts they would be representing before that day to file for a place on the ballot. Like I said, the Texas election code requires that any changes to electoral districts and boundaries be adopted at least 3 months prior. So that date prior to the November election uniform date would be August 8th. But as you see, we've provided a little bit of buffer in case we, run into more engagement. We want more maps or any type of thing that would delay the process in a sense. The timeline itself is, very controllable, and it depends on the will and desire of the city council as well as, the degree of citizen involvement. It consists of the number of maps requested, the number of maps submitted by the public that we have to consider and evaluate. And then also, should there be meetings, which meetings are canceled, which ones are on the books. We've sent over a proposed timeline and schedule with the dates that we think we would be able to present all of this information and have these things provided to you. With that being the case, that brings me to the end of my prepared materials, and I would ask that we pass the resolutions that establish the city guideline criteria and the citizen guideline criteria. But I am here for any questions from city council staff or citizens that may be available.
Do you have a motion? Do you have any questions?
Mr. Garcia had a question. Mr. Garcia, no, you didn't. Oh. I'm sorry, my question is to
Can
the
you
city,
speak into the mic, please?
my question's to the city manager, real quick. November election is just for this, or are we talking about another year?
Correct. So we don't have an election this year, Mr. Pullum. The city doesn't have an election.
Okay.
Actually, our next
Okay.
election is 2024?
23, no?
2023? Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
So yes, the timeline will obviously be adjusted. There's not as much of a time crunch, but still getting the plan adopted is ideal for that time frame.
Perfect.
So we're still on that time, I'm sorry. We're still on that time frame.
Sorry.
I can hear myself.
Yes, but
Is-
the public can't hear
Okay.
you when you're hearing the meeting.
Gotcha. So the time frame is still stands, the time frame that we have allocated, or you allocated that time frame here, it still stands. We still have to,
Correct.
Yeah.
I mean, I think we want to do it sooner than later
okay,
if we're going to redistrict.
all righty then.
I do recommend keeping that timeline because you don't have a regular election scheduled for November. You can always have a special election for a number of reasons.
Okay, thank you.
You have a motion?
Motion.
Motion to,
I'd like to motion to approve the resolution 692 and 693 for redistricting to receive training and initial assessment.
Second.
Ms. Cruz, you have a minute and a half.
Thank you. I had a couple of questions. The first one is Resolution 693, Item 5. It has the deadline. It says citizen maps must be submitted by May 5th. It doesn't say to who or where. And so I'm just wondering where that is, because the first one, sorry, Item 1 says that anyone can submit it, and so it includes the people from the public. And so if we want to make this a proper notice, I think they should know where they would need to submit those. I myself am confused. I don't know if those would go to Ms. Navarro, to the Bajorquez law firm. I'm not sure. Then my second question was, that if anyone wanted to draft a map, would they have access to the city's numbers, or would they need to request an open records request to be able to see what the breakdown was for the city of Socorro?
Yes, I can answer, I believe,
Sure.
definitely the second question and maybe add input to the first one. The first one, typically you would submit it directly to the city, whoever they designate as their point of contact. Typically has been the city secretary or possibly even the city manager for that submission. So I'll defer to City of Socorro to decide who would be the point of contact for that submission. What I will say is that as far as your second question, we do recommend and ask that the city provide that number, that the initial assessment map and the data table with all the population breakdowns of the existing current districts on their website. So it's easily accessible. We don't have to go through an open records request and that such. But it's completely at the will and desire of the city council. And, that is what we would recommend.
Thank you. I think I might have a few seconds left. The only other thing I wanted to mention is that really those are the only issues I see with the resolutions. Everything else seems really well done, and thank you for the presentation.
Thank you.
Ms. Villalobos?
Jim, or Mrs. Rodarte, should we add to the motion to who we should, or who the citizens, or who council, or whoever's involved in this resolution, submit the information that they want to, I guess, share?
No, ma'am, I would recommend against that. I would let your administration handle it. Typically, your administration designates the city clerk, but I would give her discretion to pick.
So since it's not written here, we'll just leave it alone the way it is? Okay, thank you.
Cesar Nevares,
Yes.
Alejandro Garcia,
Aye.
Rudy Cruz,
Yes.
and Ivan Colom Villalobos.
Yes.
Moving to consent agenda.
Motion to approve?
Second.
Cesar Nevares,
Yes.
Alejandro Garcia,
Aye.
Rudy Cruz,
Yes.
and Ivan Colombia Lopez.
Yes. Yes.
Moving on to our regular agenda, public hearing and ordinances. Item 15, public hearing of an ordinance for a conditional use permit request to allow a towing company at tracks 4C, 4B, and 4D, Block 14, Socorro Grant, located at 116 South Beaufort Road. It is 7:03, and public hearing is now open.
Ricardo Ramírez,
Ms. Navarro, he's the applicant, so I'm not sure if council wants to hear from him or wait till I give the presentation and ask him questions.
you can give your presentation under number 16.
Should we close the
Yeah.
public comment?
Okay, so it's 7:03, and public hearing is now closed. Item 16, second reading and adoption of an ordinance for a conditional use permit request to allow for a towing company at tracks 4C, 4B, and 4D, Block 14, Socorro Grant, located at 116 South Beaufort Road.
Mayor Pro Tem, City Council, good evening. Carlos Gallinado with Planning and Zoning Department. So this is, the item that's in front of you is a conditional use permit. So just as a little bit of background, when anything that's outer related within the city of Socorro requires a C2 and then requires a conditional use permit, right? A little bit of an extra step. This particular parcel of land has the C2, so that we check off one box. It does not have a conditional use permit. There are several moving pieces on this one, which I will walk you through it, but essentially what's in front of you, again, is a request for a conditional use permit to allow for a towing truck company on that land. The parcel is zone C2, as I mentioned, it's 2.7 acres. The future land use map has this designated as future development reserve, and the land use currently is auto shop, we think, we're not 100% sure. And then the history on this one is that there are several notice of violations on the property. As you will see, there are many things that are wrong with the property, and so part of the conditions that we're placing on it, if you choose to accept them, and if you choose to, move forward with the conditional use, is related to the notice of violations. I'm going to go through the presentation, and then I'm going to come back to the staff recommendation with those conditions, if you all don't mind. And then finally, the P&Z did vote to approve on February 15, 2020, with also a condition that the applicant be given 60 days to clean up the lot from 60 days from today, from city council action. And then here's the location map. So again, it's on Beaufort, just south of Alameda, where Horizon Boulevard turns into Beaufort. It is C2. There are some other surrounding single-family homes. There is a school, Escontrias, I believe, across the street. Here's the pictures of the property. These were taken back in February when we did the presentation to Planning and Zoning. Here's the aerial. Here's another shot of the aerial. And then the public notifications did go out. We have received no adverse comments or letters of support or comments of support. There was no public speakers at the Planning and Zoning meeting. And then again, the staff, the summary request is a conditional use permit to allow the towing truck in a C2 zoning district. Staff and the P&Z Commission conditions would be, number one, that prior to the issuance of any certificate of occupancy, right, so we won't issue the CO until, one, the all inoperable vehicles be removed from the lot. Number two, that owner obtain a business registration for the towing truck company. And number three, that the property be maintained by cleaning up the vehicle parts and overgrown weeds, grass. And then condition number four was put on by the P&Z, that all conditions be met within 60 days from city council action. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
So this
Yes,
is
ma'am.
going to be a towing company. How about vehicles? Or they're going to be storing vehicles there?
Yes, ma'am, correct.
They can?
If it's a towing company, yes, ma'am, they would be allowed to store
Okay.
vehicles. Not inoperable vehicles, though, just to be clear.
Not?
No, ma'am.
Okay. And fencing? Do we have fencing all the way around?
The fencing is there, yes, ma'am.
Okay. And the school didn't oppose at all?
We didn't hear anything, ma'am. No.
Nothing from the school. Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Cruz? Mr. Cruz?
So the condition is a towing company not to allow inoperable vehicles? Isn't that what a towing company does?
So, Mr. Cruz, my understanding of what the towing company is that they tow cars, and then the applicant's here to answer the question more fully if I'm not able to. It's also a 24-hour, right, they're towing cars, not necessarily inoperable, they're towing cars that have been towed, and then there may be 1 or 2 days from when the car is placed on the lot that is then taken out. So, that's my understanding of the operation. But again, the inoperable vehicles is specifically to the ones that are currently there and that have been there for a long time.
And I have a comment. It's not a question, it's more of a comment. Why does it take sometimes for businesses to want to open before we can go in there and start actually following up with the cleanup of the property, especially when it's right across the street from a school? That's kind of what I'm going towards there.
Yes, sir. Mr.
the applicant is here, so he can answer that question. Mr. Dominguez? Is it? Ramirez, apologize.
You know, to your question, the land, my dad used to take care of it. Sorry. My dad used to take care of the land. Him and my mom got divorced. Now that they're divorced, I stepped in. My dad's an older man. He does things his way. So now that I took over, I saw a lot of mess that he didn't really pay attention to. He ran into somebody else, and they just pushed a little bit that way, and then another person a little bit that way. But now that I'm taking care of it, now that I had to come to court, I'm about 15% clear, trash, metal, a bunch of stuff. I got about 3 containers, 15 yard containers filled up already. So it's not me. I don't blame my dad, but he was just on his old ways of doing things, not getting permits, stuff like that. Now he's, it's not Alzheimer's, but I think he has dementia. So that's why my brother has a power of attorney over him. So we're the ones doing the things now, not him. They told him about this, and he's like, no, just do it like this. And I'm like, no. I don't even want to talk to him about it because he's just old and on his own ways. But now that I'm taking care of it, that piece of land is way, way cleaner than it's been before.
Thank you.
Mr. Garcia?
Mr. Galena, can you go over the conditions again? What we're asking our applicant to do before we can give them.
Yes, sir. And Mr. Garcia, I'll go over them, but just to be clear, these are also reflected on the notice of violations. These are the items of which they have been notified of violations. So number 1, that all inoperable vehicles be removed from the lot, right? They're separate and parcel from Mr. Cruz's point, which I think is a great one, of anything having to do with the towing company.
Mm-hmm.
So even before the towing company could begin businesses, that all inoperable vehicles that have been there a long time be removed from the lot. Number 2, that owner obtain business registration. And number 3, that property be maintained by cleaning up vehicle parts and overgrown weeds/grass. And then the P&Z said, the gentleman was here, Mr. Ramirez was here at the P&Z meeting, and so the P&Z's motion to approve, which they did approve, was to give him 60 days from city council action. So we won't issue the CO until all these things are met, and then he would have 2 months essentially to comply.
Now, after 60 days, if he doesn't do it, we shut him down? What do we do?
I think there's a due process procedure in which I think at that time he is given a violation, and then perhaps, I'm not too familiar with that process, but I believe that then the courts would then take over.
Okay.
Yeah, I can answer that.
Yes, sir.
It's a conditional use permit with a restriction on it. Excuse me. And he's given 60 days to comply, to meet those conditions. If he's not meeting those conditions, then he's in violation, but you still have to proceed with the regular land use regulation procedures, which starts with a notice of violation or a warning.
Okay.
Mr. Navarez?
That was going to be my question. After, let's say he cleans up after the 60 days, but what's going to be our process to follow up and make sure that it maintains as it should?
Yes, Mr. Navarro. So at that point, I think we would coordinate with code enforcement. We know that this is a lot that has given us some red flags, and so there will be some coordination between our office and code enforcement just to do, I can't tell you exactly if it's quarterly, but the business does have to come in on a yearly basis to renew their business registration. Maybe at that time, right, we flag it in our system to say, hey, let's send someone out there just to see if they're complying. And anytime too, all right, you live here, I work here, we're driving by there often, hey, I've seen that lot, let me call code enforcement to go out there and check it out.
Okay. Thank you.
So I'm still unclear
Yes, ma'am.
about, so if he has a vehicle that is if he has a vehicle that's inoperable, and it was in a car accident or stolen, or where does he take it? Do you have a place that where it can go? Because you can't store it there, right, correctly?
Yeah, that's right, and now I'll let the applicant answer that, but my understanding, Ms. Villalobos, again, even if it's, so I think here's where there may be a difference, right? So even, let's say it's a car crash, towing company gets called, they go and take it there, there should still be a set time limit where the car then goes to the mechanics or the auto shop, right? That it can't be there indefinitely like it has been the routine.
So do we have that in writing?
We don't have that in writing, but I don't know that there's a way to measure every single thing that we're able to, right? We're trying to capture the big items that are currently there now.
Well, that to me seems unfinished business, because how do we know it hasn't been there 2 months?
Yeah, that's right. I mean, it's a great point. There's no, again, besides someone going there on a daily basis, right, or weekly, there's no way that we would know the answer to that question.
What, Mr. Martinez, would
So
be-
real quick, Ms., and that is what you're allowing, right? The towing company business that comes with these sort of uncertainties that you're talking about.
Ms. Colon-Villalobos, the way the ordinance is written, it's a draft ordinance. I mean, the city has the right to amend it. But the way it's written, it says all inoperable vehicles will be removed from the lot. That to me means you're not going to have inoperable vehicles there.
that means absolute, like you can't have them, period.
Is that after a period of time, or?
It does not have.
It's gray, and it disqualifies a towing company from taking inoperable vehicles.
Yeah, I think that's right.
It doesn't say, I mean, the way, my understanding just conceptually is, it's a tow company. It's not a storage, it's not a vehicle storage facility.
That's right.
So, they can have tow trucks there, they can't keep inoperable cars there, period. The way it's drafted now, and again, I'm not making a policy decision, that's up to council. I mean, council can move one way or the other if it wishes to do so.
What ordinance is that, sir?
I'm sorry?
What ordinance number is that?
It's in the back material, it's the draft ordinance.
Oh, sorry, thank you.
Mr.
Mr.
Martinez,
Garcia?
can I? I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, my question is, if I remember the P and Z meeting right, he's the landowner, not the tow truck owner.
Correct.
So shouldn't we have the tow truck owner here explaining to us what exactly his business is?
You could, but the resolution is to the property owner, right?
Okay.
The conditions are with the property.
Right, I mean, it's not impermissible, I don't think. I don't think it's useful. I mean,
Okay.
the land use regulation, the person responsible for compliance with the land use regulation is the owner.
Of the land.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, so I have a question.
Mr. Cruz?
So about the ordinance, what we're voting on here today is the ability to allow this gentleman to have a towing company operation on his property, not necessarily his company, but a towing company to provide this service on his property.
Yes, sir.
A towing company, and that's it. There should not be any other vehicles parked there other than the towing vehicles or the personal vehicles that they use to come back and forth from, and that's it. Should we feel the need to code enforce further, our team would do so.
Mr. Cruz, I think that's exactly correct. And the question that I had for Mr. Martinez, without the exception of the language that you read that's part of the ordinance, is there a caveat or some leeway when it's within the normal course of business for the towing company, right? So to Mr. Cruz's point, we know there's inoperable vehicles now. We know we want them removed. When they issue the CO, there should be no inoperable vehicles, right? And then through the course of a towing company, what is a reasonable course of business? 2 or 3 days, a week?
I mean, we could have a long discussion about that.
Yeah.
We could have a week-long seminar about that. I would, and again, I defer to council. I mean, I'll draft it any way you want, and now that this issue is kind of highlighted, I'm actually kind of interested in council's direction, because I may suggest a floor amendment. If it's council's wish that there not be any inoperable vehicles there, period, even for a day, even overnight, even for 6 hours, then I would suggest a slight revision to this, because the way it reads right now says that all inoperable vehicles be removed. Okay, well, I could see a clever lawyer saying, well, they were removed. The ones that were here are gone. This is a new one. You didn't address the new ones. Right, and so I would suggest, if council's wish is none, 0, then I would say we need to add a clause that says, we need a floor amendment to make it clear that all inoperable vehicles be removed, that no inoperable vehicles be stored there in the future whatsoever.
Jim, or Mr. Martinez, is a caveat, though, that the language says prior to the issuance of a CO? So the condition is that before they are allowed to, occupy the building, all these things have to be met. After that, then it's the normal course of business of a towing company.
Yeah, but I mean, the answer is yes, but it's still, you're getting the CO, and the condition is that you keep it, you maintain
Yes.
it such that there are
That's
no
right.
inoperable vehicles there. Perhaps obviously, if there is going to be, if council wishes to permit a tow company to operate there, yeah, I would anticipate that your average tow company is, from time to time, is gonna have an inoperable vehicle there, at least for 1 or 2 days, right? I mean, before someone comes and picks it up and takes it to auction or something.
Correct, so to that point, what is the definition of a towing company, right? What is the government define a towing company that would be a realistic course of business for him? It seems like we don't want to allow the conditional use permit. You know, when you're doing a towing company and you don't want inoperable vehicles, I think that's an unrealistic, depending on the definition, right? Because you're gonna have inoperable vehicles for 2 to 3 days while you paperwork, whatever needs to happen. It just seems like we don't want to allow the conditional use permit if you're not gonna want any inoperable vehicles in the land.
I have a question. So there's more than one towing company in the city of Socorro that operates, okay? Here's what I'm getting at. This is a conditional use permit. It hasn't been operating as such. Current towing companies that are already established in the city of Socorro, they have special fencing that cover up the inoperable vehicles. Yeah, I can drive there right now, and there is inoperable vehicles.
Yes, sir.
Should we make the amendment to this ordinance right now? It's going to have to be made across the board for all those other businesses. I think the way the city manager mentioned, it needs to be something reasonable. I would suggest that this council come back at the next meeting with some type of language or amendment to this ordinance that I think seems more feasible and understanding to everybody across the board, and it also allows for businesses to operate, and it also provides this gentleman here to adequately provide proper fencing if this council wishes to do so, because I think that
So there's already an ordinance that.
Your city manager brings up a good point. I think, how do I say this? The ordinance that's before you is only for this conditional use permit for that piece of land. If you're talking about, if you're contemplating a broader kind of amendment for tow companies generally, that would be a separate ordinance. We could bring something back. Your staff could draft something that. I just wanted to make clear, Mr. Cruz, I think you're talking. Those are two different.
that's been the problem with our city is that we engage in these types of business ventures, and what happens is it starts to become a nuisance after a while, because now there's no required fencing for this conditional use permit. There's gonna be inoperable vehicles there, it looks ugly and whatnot. That's what we're trying to avoid, so we can just kill 2 birds with 1 stone and just make it across the board for any towing company similar to like your junkyards and whatnot. I think that that kind of saves us all a lot of time and resources and energy.
Which I think that we already have an ordinance that covers that, right? Chief, do you want to chime in? Yeah. I see you're jumping over there.
I know.
No, I was just whispering some advice. Good evening, Mayor and Council, not Mayor. Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem and Council, Dave Burton, Chief of Police. So, in the city of Socorro, Police Department looks after tow truck companies. All right. We do annual inspections on them, especially if they want to be part of our rotational tow list, which is good for local businesses because obviously you're towing vehicles. So, let me just alleviate, I think, some of the concerns that you guys have. So tow companies are different than vehicle storage facilities, okay? So there's two different licensing requirements under the TDLR. There's actually a TDLR inspector that we worked with in the past that has handed out fines based on complaints that we've made from the police department. If you're talking about the vehicle storage facility, then yes, you have to have the privacy fencing and not visible from public access and all the other good stuff that goes with it. If it's just a tow company, then it's just the private property tow license that's required under Texas Department of License and Regulations. VSF, vehicle storage facility, is something totally different. So if the applicant is just asking for tow, that's all he's allowed to do there. The first vehicle that shows up, it's an automatic TDLR violation.
Why didn't you say that from the beginning?
He was out there.
He was like, hey. And Mr. Cruz and Mr. Martinez, correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Cruz can make a floor amendment that's specific to this case to screen, even, you know, just to allow for screening on the lot.
Yes, I think that's a fair floor amendment. Again, I always go back to, it's fair notice, and you've given fair notice to the public. You're going to do a special permit in this area, and there are specific conditions. And I think a fair floor amendment, and the council has discretion to make floor amendments. And so I think it's fair to say, if Mr. Cruz, if you or council wishes to say, look, as part of the further conditions, we're adding another condition or two, which is maintain the area free of inoperable vehicles and add screening similar to what you would have at a vehicle storage facility.
I'm sorry. You're saying in this motion, we can do this right now?
I believe you can, yes, ma'am.
Okay.
If that's council's wish, I would say the motion would be something to the effect of move to approve, but to add as additional conditions that are to those, in addition to those that are already recited in the proposed ordinance, to include the condition that he maintain the land free of inoperable vehicles, and add screening screening material similar to what is required or equal to what is required for a vehicle storage facility in Socorro.
I'm sorry, but he's not applying for a storage vehicle facility. He's applying for a towing truck business. Two different things. So why would we ask him to put a screening if he not gonna have any inoperable vehicles in there? Because he would be in violation of the TDLR immediately once he has an inoperable vehicle there.
Yeah, it's frustrating when you're right. The city manager makes a good point. And that's particularly if one of the conditions you add is already the first one that I recited, which is maintain the area free of inoperable vehicles. Okay, well then it doesn't matter whether you have screening or not, because it's not supposed to happen there anyway.
Correct, and I think the issue is that the property's not in compliance right now. There's inoperable vehicles, there's overgrowth of weeds. So in order for us to say, yes, we're gonna give you a towing license, you need to clean this up so you can have a towing company. That's pretty much what the ordinance is saying, right? Then it'll be up to chief to make sure that the TDLR is not violated if he has inoperable vehicles.
That's right. Everything she said.
That's right.
Add it.
Okay, so motion to approve with the recommendations from our staff
And planning and zoning.
and
commission.
planning and zoning.
Yes, sir.
Okay, well, let me ask for a clarification. Is that motion including, proposing a floor amendment to add as a condition that he maintain the area free of inoperable vehicles.
Well, they're not supposed to be there, so why would we add an amendment that's not supposed to be there at all?
Second.
We have a speaker, Miriam Cruz.
Thank you, Ms. Rodarte. I wanted to mention two things. I think they were briefly mentioned, but I don't think it was made clear. And I appreciate Mr. Garcia watching the Planning and Zoning Committee meeting, because we did discuss this item in length. So one of the things that we discussed, or that was brought up during that meeting, was that this property actually has many, many violations and has been having many violations for a long time, which is one of the reasons why there were so many conditions attached to it. The other one, and I sympathize with the gentleman, the story of the family, I get it, right? It's a sad story. Nevertheless, it's not in compliance right now. And it hasn't been for a really long time. And so, even though it passed in the planning and zoning, it was a 4-2 vote, so it wasn't unanimous. And the only other thing that I would point out is that one of the reasons why you wouldn't want to include additional conditions, it's because the conditions aren't being met right now, and they haven't been. This item was brought to the Planning and Zoning Commission in February, and I can appreciate if some work has been done, but it's still not in compliance. And that's really the issue that I have with it, is because it is in front of a school. It's next to that nice apartment complex that's gonna get renovated. I just don't see so many conditions when, if another applicant came and everything was ready and good to go, there wouldn't be a need for these conditions. Thank you.
Ricardo Ramirez.
You know, like I said, I say what I had to say. That's why the land's not clean. Doing my best. I only have about 15%, and that land's not really going to be totally clean. You know, from there on, I can't say much about the cars. I mean, I haven't seen any cars there. He goes and picks up cars and takes them to mechanic shops or places like that, but that's about it. That's it. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you.
Just real quick, Chief. I know that in the past, we've talked about the city of Socorro, I guess through you, or the city of Socorro has, if they're not complying, we have the right to shut them down.
Correct. And the other thing is we have some historical precedents. We actually have had tow trucks in the city that have operated as just a tow truck facility and towed it to another location because somebody else had the different permit there for storing the vehicles. So we do have those operations happening within the city.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Okay.
Cesar Nevares.
Okay, so let's clarify what we're voting on correctly. So what are we, clarify it for me. What are we voting on then?
So there was a motion to approve and a second to approve it with making sure that with the staff recommendations, that the lot is cleaned before the permit is issued for him to have a towing company.
Yes.
Alejandro Garcia.
Aye.
Rudy Cruz.
Yes.
And Ivan Colom Villalobos.
Yes.
Item 17, public hearing of an ordinance to allow rezoning of 1120 Robin Road, being tract 1812, Lee Clark Survey 293, abstract 6257, City of Socorro, Texas, from unclassified to C2 general commercial and conditional use permit to allow for a trucking company.
So, Mr. Reyes, if I may, the items 17 and 18, I'm going to ask to postpone for 2 weeks. P&Z was supposed to hear this about a month ago or so, they didn't have a quorum, so they're not going to hear it till the next one. So we don't have a P&Z recommendation, so that's why we're asking to postpone. Thank you all.
Do we have motion to postpone?
Motion to postpone.
Second.
Cesar Nevares.
Yes.
Alejandro Garcia.
Aye.
Rudy Cruz.
Yes.
And Ivan Colom Villalobos.
Yes.
Item 19, public hearing of ordinance 515, amendment 1, amend to decrease expenditures by 8,100, fiscal year 2021, 2022.
Motion to approve?
Second.
It's a public hearing.
It is 7:33, and public hearing is now open. Any speakers? No speakers?
No speakers.
No speakers.
As there is no speakers, public hearing is now closed at 7:33 p.m. Item 20, second reading and adoption of ordinance 515, amendment 1, amend to decrease expenditures by 8,100, fiscal year 2021, 2022.
Do
Good
we have a
evening, Mayor
motion?
Pro Tem and Council.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Second.
This item is requesting a budget amendment for fiscal year 2021-2022 to decrease the budget by $8,100. Attached is an explanation of the items that are being amended. We normally do a total of 3 to 4 budget amendments throughout the fiscal year. Do you all have any questions on the backup that was provided to you all?
Nope.
No? Okay, thank you.
We like decreases.
I do too.
Cesar Nevares.
Yes.
Alejandro Garcia.
Aye.
Rudy Cruz.
Yes.
And Ivan Colom Villalobos.
Yes.
Human Resource Department, item 21, discussion and action on approving the job description for Community Wellness Coordinator.
Motion to approve?
Second.
Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem and Council. Carol Candelaria, HR Director. Tonight, I'm requesting the discussion and action of approving the Community Wellness Coordinator position. This position is funded by the American Rescue Plan Action, otherwise known as ARPA. This position is good through the year of December 30th through 2024. This is a full-time temporary position. This will be overseen by the department director and the community relations, director. He will be overseeing this position. At this point, if there's any questions, I'm here to answer them, and I also have Mr. Reta, who is here to give further information regarding this position, if needed.
Questions?
Cesar Nevares.
Yes.
Alejandro Garcia.
Aye.
Rudy Cruz.
Yes.
And Ivan Colom Villalobos.
Yes.
Item number 22, discussion and action on approving job description for Public Humanities Coordinator.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem and Council. Carol Candelaria again, here with the HR Department. I am requesting the discussion and action in approving the Public Humanities Coordinator position. This position is a full-time temporary position. It is also a grant-funded position through the National Endowment for Humanities. It will be good through March 31st of 2023. This position is a full-time temporary position and will be overseen by our Director of Community Service. I am here to answer any questions, and Mr. Reta is here to further give any input if needed.
Ms. Villalobos?
Just real quick on these two items and the next item. We already have the funds for this. This is already a done deal.
Correct. So we've received ARPA funding from the Biden administration that we have currently in our budget system.
Okay.
So these are grant-funded positions.
Just out of curiosity.
Of course.
If we would not use the money, we would have to return it.
No,
No?
if we don't utilize it, then yes, it would have to be returned.
Okay.
But that's why we're trying to maximize all of the funds that we're trying to get from.
Excellent. Thank you.
Cesar Nevares.
Yes.
Alejandro Garcia.
Aye.
Rudy Cruz.
Yes.
And Ivan Colom Villalobos.
Yes.
Item 23, discussion and action on approving the job description for the intake program specialist.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem and Council. Again, Carol Candelaria with the HR Department. Tonight, I'd like to request the approval and action for approving the intake program specialist position. This position is also a full-time temporary position. It is also a grant funded through the ARPA program, and it will be in existence through March 31st of 2023. This position will be overseen by our Director of Community Services. I'm here to answer any further questions, and Mr. Ureta is here to further give any additional information if needed.
Ms. Villalobos?
Okay, I'm so sorry. I don't have my glasses, I can't see, and I know I read through them. These positions, are they, I didn't see the benefits, the French benefits, besides
All these positions, although they are a full-time temporary position and they're good through the years that has been identified, they are going to be eligible for all the benefits that are offered to all of the employees for the city of Socorro. That would include medical, dental, vision, and any of those additional benefits.
So you did say they are eligible?
Yes,
They
ma'am.
could, be okay.
They are eligible.
Thank
Yes,
you,
ma'am.
ma'am. Thank you. Mhm.
Cesar Nevares.
Yes.
Alejandro Garcia.
Aye.
Rudy Cruz.
Yes.
And Ivan Colombia Lobos.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Grant Department, item 24, discussion and action to approve resolution 687, authorizing the submission of a grant application to the Office of the Governor, Homeland Security Grants Division, fiscal year 2023, local border program, security program, grant for the Socorro Police Department. There is no match required for this grant.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. Alejandra Valadez, City Development Director. We are requesting your approval to submit a grant application to the Office of the Governors for the Local Border Security Program. We will be requesting approximately $85,000 in funding for overtime hours for the Socorro Police Department to reduce border-related criminal activity in the region. We have participated in this program since 2018, and if you approve it, we will continue our participation in this program for the next fiscal year.
Motion to approve?
We have a motion already.
Oh, okay.
Any questions?
I have one question.
Mr. Cruz?
What has annual funding looked like in the past?
It's the same as last year, actually, the same amount.
All right.
Cesar Nevares.
Yes.
Alejandro Garcia.
Aye.
Rudy Cruz.
Yes.
And Ivan Colombia Lobos.
Yes.
Item 25, discussion and action to adopt resolution 688, authorizing the City of Socorro to submit a grant application to the Office of the Governors, fiscal year 2021, Operation Stone Garden.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. Again, this is a request for your approval to submit a grant application for the FY 2021 Operation Stone Garden program to fund overtime for officers supporting this border initiative. We are seeking approximately $71,000 in grant funding for this program to support overtime costs for our law enforcement activities. The Socorro Police Department has participated in this program since 2015. So this is a continuation of that participation for this new fiscal year.
Questions?
Cesar Nevares.
Yes.
Alejandro Garcia.
Aye.
Rudy Cruz.
Yes.
And Ivan Colombia Lobos.
Yes.
Item 26, discussion and action to adopt resolution 689, authorizing the submission of a grant application to the Office of Governors, fiscal year 2023, Juvenile Justice and Truancy Prevention Program grant for the Socorro Police Department's Police Athletics League. There is no match required for this grant.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. We're actually requesting your deletion of this item. We will be withdrawing our application for this program for this year.
Motion to delete.
Second.
Did we have to rescind the motion? No?
Ms. Villalobos?
Alejandra, can you explain why we're deleting it?
Yes, and Chief is here.
Yes, ma'am, I will explain why. Good evening again, Dave Burton, Chief of Police. So the second year grant application required a matrix of success data for the first one that we submitted, and we still have quite a bit of money in the first one that we have not paid down yet. So it didn't make any sense to put in a second one. And we would have honestly been questioned about that if we'd have gone forward with this application. So we still intend to run the PAL, but it will be with our initial funding because we have that money left over, so.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Cesar Nevares.
Yes.
Alejandro Garcia.
Aye.
Rudy Cruz.
Yes.
And Ivan Colombia Lopez.
Yes.
Item 27, discussion and action to approve memorandum of understanding, MOU, between the City of Socorro and El Paso County Water Improvement District Number 1 for the management of the watershed affected by the city's grant application submitted to the Texas Water Development Board.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. We are requesting your approval of this memorandum of understanding between the City of Socorro and the El Paso County Water Improvement District Number 1. As you recall, the city did submit a grant application to the Texas Water Development Board for funding for the Sparks Arroyo Drainage Project. Because that project affects the watersheds of several political entities in our area, we are required, as part of the funding award, it's a condition of funding, to enter into a memorandum of understanding that shows that we are collaborating with other entities on the management of this watershed. That is why you see in your backup the MOU talks about doing that collaboration in this project as well as future projects that affect this watershed.
Any questions?
Cesar Nevares.
Yes.
Alejandro Garcia.
Aye.
Rudy Cruz.
Yes.
And Ivan Colombia Lopez.
Yes.
Item number 28, discussion and action to approve a memorandum of understanding between the City of Socorro and the Town of Horizon for the management of the watershed affected by the city's grant application submitted to the Texas Water Development Board.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Good afternoon. This is the same duplicate of the previous item, and this is the MOU now that we want to enter in with the Town of Horizon City. That watershed for the Sparks Arroyo Drainage Project also touches, is inside the city limit of the Town of Horizon City, so this is why we need to have this collaboration agreement with them also.
Ms. Rodarte, this memorandum has nothing to do with the county helping with the Sparks Arroyo project in the future.
Correct, so it's a combined effort. And in order for us to be able to apply, we have to show all these letters of support and mutual agreements between agencies in order for us to show a united front when we're applying for these funds.
Got it. Okay. Thank you, Mayor.
Cesar Nevares.
Yes.
Alejandro Garcia.
Aye.
Rudy Cruz.
Yes.
And Ivan Colombia Lopez.
Yes.
Item number 29, discussion and action to approve the letter of support for the Texas Department of Transportation, TxDOT, grant application to the RACE program for the Paso del Norte Trail Project.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Good afternoon. We are requesting your approval on this letter of support on behalf of the City of Socorro for the Texas Department of Transportation's grant application to the RACE program for the Paso del Norte Trail. They are requesting funding for several segments of the trail throughout the county. One of the trails does connect Isleta to Socorro via the Franklin Canal. It moves southward along Nevares Road, and then it connects into the Socorro lateral, makes a little loop around and connects back to Socorro Road. Of course, this is just the first connection to Socorro, but we very much appreciate TxDOT's willingness and efforts in trying to make this project happen for Socorro. And as you know, we'll continue to push forward for these trail projects to come through.
Questions?
Cesar Nevares.
Yes.
Alejandro Garcia.
Aye.
Rudy Cruz.
Yes.
And Ivan Colombia Lopez.
Yes.
Item number 30, discussion and action to approve the Entrepreneur and Small Business Regulatory Assistant Pilot Program to assist Socorro small businesses recover from the COVID-19 pandemic and achieve local and state regulatory compliance.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Good afternoon. We are again requesting your approval for the pilot Entrepreneur and Small Business Regulatory Assistance Program to assist Socorro small business recover from the COVID-19 pandemic. As you all know, our small business community was negatively impacted by the COVID-19 pandemic. It caused a reduced number of clientele sales, staffing numbers were reduced, and in some cases, small businesses had to shut down. In speaking with our planning and zoning department, we realized that the number of registered businesses in Socorro decreased from 2021 to 2022. Business renewal letters that were sent out last year were 1,669. This year, that number dropped to about 900. So that's almost half a reduction in our registered businesses. Now, this could be because we are transitioning to a new Excel software, but still, that's quite a drastic drop. We also did, in 2021, we completed a feasibility study as part of a small business incubator project, and we did surveys, stakeholder meetings, and focus group meetings with small businesses and people in the community, and we found that very few small businesses in Socorro were able to take advantage of pandemic relief grant programs and traditional loans that are available. One of the reasons is because they lacked the documentation and requirements needed in the grant application process. So they missed out on a lot of grants and loans that were available for distressed businesses through the CARES Act. So we've also, since we have hired our economic recovery coordinator, we have been meeting with small businesses and started a small business support group meeting, which happens on the first Monday of every month, and everybody's welcome. But through that feedback also, we know that they have a lot of issues in attaining all of the required local and state permits and licenses that they need to operate their small businesses. As you know, there are many benefits for these small businesses to get their business registrations and all of the permits and licenses that they need. These documents are usually required when you open a business bank account. They're also required when you apply for a small business loan or a small business grant. And it also, having all these permits and licenses help you establish a trustworthy reputation with your clients and lets them know that you're following all of the health inspections and regulations that we have. In speaking with our code enforcement department, our officers, we realize that we have a number of small businesses that are operating in Socorro but are not registered, or maybe they're lacking a permit or a license. And so this is why we have created this small business regulatory assistance pilot program. We are setting aside $50,000 from the $300,000 that council already approved from our ARPA allocation for this pilot program. And so in your backup, you see the guidance for the program. Businesses will be able to, if approved tonight, businesses will be able to apply for a one-time assistance with any local or state permits and licenses, and they can qualify for 100% of the permit cost or license cost, or $2,000, whichever is higher. There is a list of qualified industries that is included in the policy. There's also a list of businesses that are not eligible for this assistance. And they include things that we have discussed in the past that maybe we don't want to incentivize, including motel facilities, junkyard facilities. Those type of businesses are included there. So when also the application form is included, it's a simple 2-page application process. Once they fill out the application, the Planning and Zoning Department can then waive their vendor registration or business-related construction permit issued by the City of Socorro. And if it's a state permit, they would bring in all of their documentation and they would be reimbursed 100% of the permit fee or $2,000, whichever is that's the max. And that is all. And lastly, the goal is to assist and encourage all of our small businesses in Socorro to register with the City of Socorro and be in compliance with all state and county permits and licenses that are needed. And this will help them be ready for future grant programs that are going to be coming online through the city of Socorro, as well as El Paso County, and other programs that are going to be requiring these permits as part of the application process.
Mr. Garcia had a question.
No, I just want to thank staff for doing this for our citizens Socorro, and it's just a great thing that just to add something, another hat to you guys, but I appreciate it so much.
Mr. Cruz?
I'm looking at the eligible business, or qualified industries. And I'm noticing that some of the titles here are, like number 81's the last one, it's other services. And then I look at the businesses not eligible and what adult businesses.
Not eligible.
So what's considered an adult business?
So we follow the NICS code. It's a national industry classification system. And so that 81 number has a listing of other services that are listed under that industry category code. And then if a business has questions on whether they are eligible or not, they can always call our Economic Recovery Office, and Mr. Jose Quiñones, who is our new Economic Recovery Coordinator, will be available to meet with them, walk them through the process, explain if they're eligible under these categories or not. So that will be available.
Following the NAICS codes.
Yeah.
Okay, good deal.
Yeah.
Ms. Villalobos?
I lost my train of thought. I'm sorry, I lost my question. Oh, the permits and the permits and the documents that they need. You're talking about that they can still come in, like if they purchased it last year, or within the 12 months or less than 12 months, and they can get reimbursed.
That's right. They can get reimbursed for state permits that were paid for according to this policy from January 1st, 2022, all the way through December 31st, 2022. So if they just paid their license or a permit last week, they can come with that receipt and they can get a reimbursement as long as they fulfill all of the other eligibility requirements.
Okay, thank you.
Ms. Valadez, other than doing it online, is there like a brochure that they can go pick up?
Yes, if it's approved tonight, we have a list of social media posts that we're going to do, a flyer, the application. It will be available also in the Planning and Zoning office. And we also, if you are a registered business with Socorro, we also automatically sign you up for our Economic Recovery email newsletter, and this will be blasted to about 700, 800 small businesses if approved tonight. Okay. So our plan is to spread the message as much as we can.
Thank you.
Thank you.
No questions?
Cesar Nevares.
Yes.
Alejandro Garcia.
Aye.
Rudy Cruz.
Yes.
And Ivan Colom Villalobos.
Yes.
Item 31, discussion and action to approve the proposed updates to the spending framework for City of Socorro's allocation under the Coronavirus Local Fiscal Recovery Fund, approved in the American Rescue Plan Act.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Good afternoon. We are requesting your approval on the proposed updates to the spending framework for the city's allocation of ARPA funds. As you know, we have been bringing updates on this spending framework to council almost on a monthly basis, and so this is another update to that spending framework. We are requesting an increase of $71,432 for year one of the Community Wellness Pilot Program. This program ties into the job description that you all just approved for the Community Wellness Coordinator. These funds will pay for the hiring of one Community Wellness Coordinator, the cost of training for one Socorro police officer to assist with community wellness outreach, and the cost for healthy eating and active living services, programs, and activities in Socorro, Texas. The goal of this program is to increase access to nutritious foods and physical activity opportunities in Socorro, Texas, and address the social determinants of health that played a role in the disproportionate negative impact of the pandemic on specific populations. Some of the populations that were most affected were low-income populations, Hispanic-speaking populations, border communities, people residing in qualified census tracts. These activities are eligible under ARPA expenditure category 3.14, social determinants of health, community health workers, or benefit navigators. And the last thing that I'd like to add to this is that you'll see Mr. Garcia's item on the Socorro Sundays walk. This community wellness coordinator is also going to bring those healthy eating and healthy activity opportunities to that event. So the goal is to address some of those determinants of health and prepare our community to live healthier lives and mitigate the impacts of this pandemic as well as potential future pandemics.
Any questions?
I do, I'm sorry. I know that you mentioned the cost would be about $71,432, but in the back, it says financial impact amount $67,432.
Oh, my apologies, that is a typo. It should be the $71,432.
Okay. We're good, Mr. Martinez? Yes, ma'am. Yeah, okay, thank you.
Cesar Nevares.
Yes.
Alejandro Garcia.
Aye.
Rudy Cruz.
Yes.
And Ivan Colom Villalobos.
Yes.
Moving to Police Department, item number 32, discussion and action to approve the purchase of 2 unmarked Ford Explorer vehicles for the Socorro Police Department's detectives that will have interior lights and sirens.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem and Council. Dave Burton, Chief of Police. I have to get up here and speak because I think Parks and Rec is going to steal or Senior Services is going to steal my Explorers. So that's what he was texting me. So I don't know if you remember, about 3 months ago, we talked about some of the lessons learned from our December 1st incident that we had, and I actually removed 2 of the vehicles that we planned to buy so we could purchase the body cameras. And equip the police department with a more modern and robust version, and that purchase was made. Now, looking at the budget adjustment budget amendment with the city manager, we do have enough funding left to put those 2 vehicles back where they were placed to begin with. We did move them from marked to unmarked. That saves us about $9,000 a vehicle because of the equipment costs. And we will use them to replace, we have 6 detective vehicles presently, which are all unmarked versions. And we will use the 2 of these to replace 2 of the others that were involved in the December 1st incident, but were not equipped properly with lights and sirens. Again, lesson learned for us as far as unmarked or administrative type vehicles, especially those assigned to the police department, because of the chance that we can be involved in an incident at any time. We can't practice the old ways of going out and just buying cars off the lot, even though it might be a cheaper option for us, because that's what we were doing. And we have to actually have the purpose-built vehicles because we don't know what we may be involved in at any time. I mean, all 6 of my unmarked vehicles were involved in that pursuit, so, and 2 of them were damaged as a result. We didn't damage them. Other departments damaged us. So, but we are going to replace them for the purpose-built vehicles. And this is the first 2. Next budget, I'll come back and ask you for the other 4, so.
Questions?
Cesar Nevares.
Yes.
Alejandro Garcia.
Aye.
Rudy Cruz.
Yes.
And Ivan Colom Villalobos.
Yes.
Moving to Planning and Zoning Department, item 33, discussion and action to approve Resolution 690, approving the request for a replan for Trujillo subdivision being Lot 1, Block 1, Trujillo Unit 2, Socorro, Texas, allow for a reduction in the lot size minimum.
Mayor and Council, good evening. Carlos Gallinado with Planning and Zoning. Once again, this is a subdivision replat, so the land has already been platted. They're asking now to subdivide one large parcel into 2. The background information is in front of you. So this is the zoning is A1. Size is 2.85 acres. The future land use map has it as undefined. The current land use is vacant, and there is a single-family home on one of the new lots. The request is to subdivide one lot into two lots, and then the variance request, what happens is that the agricultural 1 zoning district requires a minimum of 1 acre. In subdividing the land, the parcel that has the house is now at half an acre, at about 21,000 square feet. And so that's where the variance comes in, right? It doesn't meet the dimensional standards of the A1, and so therefore they're asking for the variance. Planning and Zoning Department recommends approval, and the Planning and Zoning Commission on Tuesday also voted to approve, including the variance request. Here's the location map. So the parcel is on Socorro Road. Here's the zoning map, so it's going to show the agricultural 1. Here's the property image, the aerial, and then another view of the aerial, and then here's the original plat. So here's Trujillo Subdivision Unit 2. The larger parcel at the bottom is the one that is being replatted, and so here's the replat A, next parcel. I'm sorry, yes, not parcel, slide. And so now you have two parcels. The smaller one is the one that has a house and has the, meets the variance request. The next slide shows the detailed site plan. And so again, the A1 zoning district requires a minimum of 1 acre. The new lot 1A is half an acre. And so the variance would allow the lot to be smaller than the required 1 acre as per the A1. And they are in the process of rezoning to bring it up to code. And so if this is approved, the next step is to bring in the rezoning application. They've already started processing it through the P&Z. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions. You want to put the summary of the request?
Motion to approve?
Second.
Cesar Nevares.
Yes.
Alejandro Garcia.
Aye.
Rudy Cruz.
Yes.
And Ivan Colombia Lobos.
Yes.
Item 34, discussion and action to approve Resolution 691, approving the preliminary and final plat for Robin Subdivision being track 1A12, Lake Larch Survey 293, Socorro, Texas, abstract 6257, Socorro, Texas.
Mayor and Council, once again, Carlos Gainar with Planning and Zoning Department. So this is a combination plat, which means that you are seeing both the preliminary and the final. And the reason that we're able to do that is because there are no public improvements being dedicated to the city of Socorro, right? This is just a lot split. The reason that the applicant is here, he wants to develop his land. You cannot pull building permits in the city of Socorro without the land being subdivided or platted, and so that's why it's in front of you. As part of the background, there is no zoning. It's one of these lots up by I-10 and Stockyard that is unclassified. There is a process for the rezoning, which is a case that we postponed for 2 weeks, and so that's going to come to you in 2 weeks once the P&Z hears it. The size of the acres of the lot is 5.25. The future land use map also has it as unclassified, as there is no zoning district, and the land is vacant. The request again is to plat the property for development purposes. The property has never been subdivided, and there are no public improvements being dedicated to the city of Socorro. Staff and the P&Z are both recommending approval. Here's the location map. So it's on Robin Road, again, near Stockyard, I-10. Here is the zoning map. So it's unclassified. There's no zoning district. And as I mentioned, there will be a zoning application coming to you in the next 2 weeks. Here's the property image. Here's the aerial. Another view of the aerial. And here is the preliminary plat, which shows the contours, the drainage flow. Again, just preliminary items that we review. And then the final plat, which is identical to the preliminary plat. There's no changes in the lot side, in the lot lines. Shows the 2 parcels of land. So it's one. Next slide, please. So it's the 5.25 acre lot being subdivided into 2 lots, and it shows the drainage. And again, there's no sidewalks, streets, nothing that's going to be improved to the city of Socorro, as that already, those things already exist. Summary request, again, it's just to approve preliminary and final plats. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Ms. Villalobos?
I noticed at the top of the final plat says OT Trucking subdividing.
Subdivision, yes, ma'am?
Okay, subdivision, I'm sorry. Um, So they're here to divide, but are they going to have, or do you know if they're having two commercial properties, two different?
Yes, ma'am. So the lot
Mhm.
subdivides it into 2 commercial lots, correct?
Okay, all righty. Okay, that was my question. Thank
Yes,
you.
ma'am.
Thank you.
Motion to approve?
Second.
Cesar Nevares.
Yes.
Alejandro Garcia.
Aye.
Rudy Cruz.
Yes.
And Ivan Colom Villalobos.
Yes.
Thank you. Mayor,
Mr. Garcia?
I'd like to make a motion for a 5-minute recess.
Second.
Cesar Nevares.
Yes.
Alejandro Garcia.
Aye.
Rudy Cruz.
Yes.
And Ivan Colom Villalobos.
Yes.
It is 8:08.
It is 8:08, and we'll be back in 5 minutes. It is 8:22, and this meeting is called to order. Item 35, discussion and action to approve the fiscal year 2022-2023 budget calendar.
Motion to approve.
Second.
The purpose of this agenda is to approve the budget calendar. I am recommending we combine our two workshops for capital for a Saturday, June 11th, from 8 a.m. to 12 p.m. And then our two budget workshops for Saturday, July 16th, from 8 a.m. to 12 p.m. Instead of trying to do them before our meetings, that only allows us about an hour to 2 hours with all the other agenda items. The rest of the calendar are deadlines that need to be met to adopt our budget accordingly.
Questions?
Motion to approve?
It's a Saturday,
We already have a motion.
At
Mr.
8 a.m.?
Garcia.
Sorry.
A las 8.
Cesar Nevares,
Yes.
Alejandro Garcia,
Aye.
Rudy Cruz,
Yes.
and Ivan Colombia Lopez.
Yes. And they're bringing menudo, right?
Item 37, discussion and action to designate legislative liaison and legislative initiatives for the 88th legislative session.
Motion to approve?
Second.
Yes, Council, in 2021, Council approved the designation of Ralph Duran and Ivan Colombia Lobos to serve as the liaison for the 87th legislative session. The designees will be appearing before the state legislature, establishing and maintaining close contacts among legislative committees, individual legislators, public officials, trade and industry associations, and business organizations in order to influence members and to assure full communication of ideas, interests, and favored outcomes, attending and testifying hearings and scheduling witnesses, working with the city manager and the designated legislative liaison to assist in preparation of the legislative agenda for city council approval of the 88th legislative session. Do we have a motion to appoint someone?
Mr. Garcia.
A motion to self-nominate myself for this liaison position.
Second.
Ms. Villalobos.
So this was a passion of mine when we brought it here. And so unfortunately, COVID hit and we got to do nothing but meet 3 times virtually, Ms. Rodarte, right? 3 times we got to meet with Forma, correct?
Correct, we met several times.
Right.
Yes.
So I didn't get the full the experience that I wanted to get with, going out there. It's something that I wanted to do before the COVID hit, so I would like to continue, if you guys don't mind. Thank you.
Motion to approve Mr. Garcia and Ms. Yvonne Colon.
And we did have a motion made by Mr. Garcia.
Amend the motion to approve the self-nominations.
Second.
Cesar Nevares.
Yes.
Alejandro Garcia,
Aye.
Rudy Cruz,
Yes.
and Ivan Colombia Lopez.
Yes.
Item number 38, discussion and action to award HO Construction for creating a concrete foundation and erect a prefabricated building for mechanic shop in the amount of $47,700.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. On January 20, 2021, Council approved the purchase of the mechanic shop hut in the amount of $49,995. To install this shop, we need a concrete foundation and a builder to erect the building. We requested 3 quotes as required through our procurement procedures. Based on quotes received, staff recommended approval for HO Construction for these 2 items in the amount of, let me see, $49,700.
Any questions?
Cesar Nevares,
Yes.
Alejandro Garcia,
Aye.
Rudy Cruz,
Yes.
and Ivan Colombia Lobos.
Yes.
Item number 39, discussion and action to ratify and approve paving for driveway at Cougar Park in the amount of $73,000.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Second.
Mayor and Council, we're requesting to complete the rest of the driveway for Cougar Park. It is approximately 1,500 feet in length, by 30 feet in width and 2 inches in thickness. It calculates a total of approximately 750 tons, with 50 on standby. And the total, since the department did pave a portion of it, we are asking to ratify those $18,000 as we weren't budgeted for that paving. However, now that if you go out there, I want the paving to go full circle, okay? And we will reflect that in our next budget amendment.
Are we paying somebody, we're doing, staff's doing it?
I'm sorry?
Is staff doing it?
Yes, we're doing it in-house.
All right. Questions?
Cesar Nevares.
Yes.
Alejandro Garcia.
Aye.
Rudy Cruz.
Yes.
And Ivan Colom Villalobos.
Yes.
Mayor and council, item number 30, discussion and action to approve mayor and any council member to travel for TML regional meeting 4 in Balmoral, Texas on April 29, 2022.
Motion to approve.
Second.
So, good evening, Mayor and Council. Our mayor is actually in a TML leadership training this evening, but she is requesting approval to attend the TML Region 4 meeting on April 29th in Balmoral, Texas, for her and anyone that's interested from this council to join.
It says here that we have till April 22nd to reserve.
Correct. We don't want to wait till the last minute, sometimes because the registrations run out, and I don't know if they have limited seating. So we would like to know tonight who is interested in going. What happens is we rent a vehicle. They leave around noon. We drive, have the meeting, and then come back that same night.
Did we already have a motion?
Yes, Ms.
Okay.
Villalobos, you made the motion.
I did?
To approve.
Okay, all righty.
Do you want to amend your motion to?
No.
No, that just mayor is the only one that's going, right?
Oh, so you need to know, yeah, no, you can add me to it.
So you want to amend your motion? To
Well,
include you?
To include you.
Well, it says here, and any other council member.
Right.
Yes, you can include me, yes, ma'am.
Any other council members that are interested?
Can't we just leave it open and maybe give us a few days to get those members that want to go?
Correct. So what would be the deadline, I guess, that you want to provide?
By Tuesday,
That would be good.
right? I'll go. And then,
Okay, so I'll have Norma check in with you all so you can confirm.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Cesar Nevares.
Yes.
Alejandro Garcia.
Aye.
Rudy Cruz.
Yes.
And Ivan Colom Villalobos.
Yes.
item number 41, discussion and action to remove Mary Perez from Historical Landmark Commission.
Motion to approve.
Second. This is my item. Right now, I've been very invested in watching PLC, Historical Mission, all the other commissions that we do have. They're doing very good. The status of regular absences has something that is brought up, and I want to make sure that we get people who actually want to be in the council, in the commission. So I hope we can keep moving forward and getting people who actually want to be there. And this is the reason for my removal of Ms. Mary Perez.
Cesar Nevares.
Yes.
Alejandro Garcia.
Aye.
Rudy Cruz.
Yes.
And Ivan Colom Villalobos.
Yes.
Item number 42, discussion and action to close certain roads and dedicate them and other spaces for use by pedestrians and cyclists from time to time, and to declare these times Socorro Sundays.
Motion to approve.
Second.
So this is my item. I know we do we still have that presentation? Yes, it's a great presentation. I got a little glimpse of it. I'm very, this is something it's comparable to Scenic Sundays as well. Scenic Drive gets closed. This is just something that we can do on the east side now in the valley. And Mr. Galinat put this together, and I hope you can walk us through it, Mr. Galinat. And this is, I saw it beforehand, so it's amazing. This is something I think Socorro is long overdue, and our citizens and our communities to the left and to the right are going to be very, not impressed, but grateful that we do this here in the valley.
Mr. Garcia, Mayor and Council, good afternoon. Carlos Gainat. Mr. Garcia, I think just as a point of prefacing the presentation, so this was an item that we discussed with you. I know that there's been some conversation with this council about wanting to increase quality of life as it pertains to parks and recreation. And so this is really just our attempt to put your ideas onto the PowerPoint. So I'll walk you through it. I know that it's a little bit lengthy, but I'm going to go through it quickly. So yeah, again, this is just the idea of open streets, right? As Mr. Garcia mentioned, the city of El Paso has been doing this for quite so many years with Scenic Drive, where they close it from sometimes 8 a.m., 7 a.m. to 11 or 12 p.m. on Sundays. Huge success. I can tell you that there's many friends and family who go there, not all the time, right? But knowing that there is the opportunity on Sundays to go there because you know it's going to be closed is a great amenity for people of the region. There's, in the greater sort of national, global perspective, it's called open streets. We know we saw that a lot during COVID when people were, many of us were indoors and governments closed the streets to pedestrians, cyclists, people who just wanted to be outside. If you all remember, one of the recommendations was to get some fresh air, and so this is what open streets is. Again, there's many examples across the country. The one on the flyer on the right, the orange one, is from El Paso, right? Live Active at Scenic. It promotes healthy living. It promotes recreational activities. Next slide, just some examples of this is another concept that comes to mind is Ciclovia, also done in Bogota many years ago, and we know that it's a huge success. You're closing off streets. Here's Tucson, here's New York City, Scenic Drive in Tucson, yep, and then Scenic Drive in El Paso, Scenic Sundays. So again, the idea, if we could get to the next slide. So the idea is for, what about something like this in Socorro? And we've identified Rio Vista as the potential street, right? There's minimal impact to surrounding residents. We know that it's the city of Socorro that owns this building and the facilities across the street. There aren't very many homes that we would be impacting, but for Parker Street, which I'll walk you through in just a second. But the idea is to create an open streets program in Socorro. We would close off to cars, Rio Vista, Parker Road, and Mesa Drain. Parker Street would be partially closed. We would still have half of it open, so cars could still maneuver in and out of those homes on Parker. The idea is, again, Socorro Sunday, so it would be from 7 a.m. to noon. Year-round, including holidays and during inclement weather. I think that this is an important point. I think what you're going to find is initially you might have very little activity, and then as people get the idea, again, that it's consistent, that it's, you know, there's no second guessing, right? I'm not going to say, va a ir para allá y va a estar cerrado, no sé. It's closed. You know it's closed. Even if you get one person on a Sunday, that's okay, because other Sundays you're going to get
consistency,
right? So I think that's an important point to make, that it's a consistent moving forward every Sunday indefinitely until another decision is made. The start date would be September 4th or Labor Day weekend. That could also, we could discuss that. It could be even sooner. But for us, we felt like if you started in the summer, it might deter people when it's a little bit too hot. September, kids are back in school. People have taken vacations. You start to ease into the fall. Weather starts to get nicer. And then you could have different activities as it relates to this programming. And then finally, it increases quality of life, provides healthy options, builds community pride. And then we know that these programs create economic activity. You're going to have many more visitors, not just from Socorro, but from the other regions coming to Socorro. I mean, it's a really beautiful site that you're not going to get anywhere else, right? You heard me talk about it when we talked about parks. When you know you're in Socorro because of the beauty, the agricultural, the mission, the architecture, and I don't know that there's any other part of the region that you're going to get the experience that you're going to get on Sundays. And then we could talk about different activities, farmers market, food festivals, yoga, chalk the block, meet your representative. You know, if you all want to participate, there could be programming centered around meeting your specific rep on Sunday and you and your families. And then maybe a Socorro 5K run. Here's the route. And so essentially, again, it includes Rio Vista, Parker Road, and then the Mesa Drain. The length is 1.5 miles. Each leg is about half a mile. Again, we believe that there's minimal disruption with the exception of Parker Road. Leaves all other streets open, includes Rio Vista, the community center, the park, So it could be a multi-use experience, right? You're not just now walking on an empty street or street that's close to parks, but you can, hey, picnic on the park. Hey, use the parking lot for kids to ride their bikes around this building. And then the idea, which is still needs to be, there's some details that still need to be worked out, but the idea is that there would be providing parking at Hill Elementary. So again, there's some degree of coordination that needs to happen. Here's the route again, next slide. So we would have some barricades, right? There would be one there at Mesa and Allison, Rio Vista and Parker, and then perhaps one over there by the Mesa Drain. We would have design signage that says, hey, again, Socorro Sundays, it's Sunday, you know it's Sunday. After a while, I think people will start to avoid, those that are traveling by car start to avoid the area, but those that want to participate make it a routine thing. So again, the route includes the Rio Vista Missions, the agricultural land, the Mesa Drain. It really is just a really cool, beautiful route. Here's just some ideas of what other cities have done across the country with their streets. Next slide. You know, can we over time paint some murals on the street, right? We know that the idea that this community has immense pride, the idea that, you know, the name of Socoloco, right? We know that it evokes some pride. This is just an example that we put on there. It could be anything, but how cool would it be that if you had a mural painted right across the street on Rio Vista and hundreds of people bicycling, walking, eating, building community. It's just a really, really great concept. And then again, just there's a to-do list for staff for us to work through. Next slide. I'm not going to go through the whole list, but again, there's still some coordination that needs to happen with the Socorro ISD for the use of the parking lot, the El Paso County Water Improvement District for the use of Mesa Drain. We have had some preliminary conversations already. Louis Chavez, our Public Works Director, has started those conversations. They're open to the idea. I think we might have to do an MOU, but they're not closed off to the idea. They're wanting to participate. And then again, just creating the logo, the branding, outreach to the community, making sure that people, you know, if we start in September, we would build up to it through the summer. Again, come that Sunday, Labor Day, we're rolling with it, and I think it'd be a great program. Anyhow, with that, happy to answer any questions, but again, it's just a really cool concept, and I think it'd be really fun and great for the city.
I like it.
Love it.
And we have a speaker for this item, Ms. Cruz. Thank you, Ms. Navarro. So when I first looked at the backup, I thought, cool. I agree, it's a great concept. And I'm not saying don't do it. But after I reviewed it, this is the thought that popped into my head. Quality of life, only on Sundays. So I know that, Mr. Garcia, you haven't been part of the council for the past, whatever years. And there's been a big push to not accept parks in the neighborhoods that are being built because there's no staffing, there's no this, there's no that, there's no funding, right? And I take issue with that because I think quality of life should be year-round, should be every day. And I think we also need to invest in our parks that are open every day. And so I'm not saying don't do it. I'm not saying it's a bad idea. I'm just saying what message of quality of life do we want to tell the people of Socorro that we want to give them? This obviously would take some planning. It's going to take money. You got to shut down the streets. You got to hire, you're going to have staff or maybe officers there. That's money, right? That's being spent on a great concept, but also we should be investing in the parks that we have and the parks that should be in every single neighborhood. And so I just wanted to share that because I love the idea, but again, quality of life should be every day. And people might be busy on Sundays. Maybe they're at church all day.
Ms. Cruz, your
Thank
time
you.
is up.
Mr. Garcia.
Understood, but this is part one of many parts. And this is something that we got together. We're still working on many more things. This is something that came about with meetings after meetings after meetings and ideas, and I want to congratulate Mr. Galinar, because this blew me out of the water when I saw it. But doing something is better than doing nothing. And there is a lot in plan that we've come up with, but we're gonna take baby steps. But this is something that we can do now. We are working on a lot more things. And if we're just patient, we'll get to them when we do get to them. And I know for a fact you can keep me accountable, because that's what I ran on, is making sure the quality of life in Socorro gets better. Make sure that people don't have to leave Socorro to do scenic, to go all the way to scenic. I've done all the way to scenic. It's a 40-minute drive. And so I think step one is always better than, one step forward is always better than one step back. So there is a lot of planning, but I'd rather do it right and do it with our staff who, trust me, if it was up to me, I'd throw everything out there right now, but it's not feasible. So thank you for your comment, but we're getting there. And one step forward is better than two steps back.
Sure, Mr. Reyes. I'd like to view it as a marketing tool for our city. Maybe Socorro Sundays can be an event that we can host, and it's not only for our community, but the surrounding communities. Maybe we can do one by the mission. Maybe we can do one to commemorate the Braceros. Maybe we can do the opening of Socorro Sundays to initiate the commencement of the new Braceros rehab. We can do something like that. We can identify certain places that are significant to people who are from Socorro, and we have pride in our city, and we can showcase our city and market it in that manner by making Socorro Sundays a new tradition here in Socorro.
That's great. That's right.
So,
and Mr. Cruz, I would also add, you just think of like the spillover economic activity, right? So where you may not have, you're going to get people from all over the county, right? You just are. You're great that citizens of Socorro will participate, but you will get some folks wanting to come to Socorro. Hey, it's now 12 o'clock. Let's go grab lunch somewhere on Socorro Road. Hey, let's go to any of the restaurants.
Right.
Hey, wow, there's a Bracero museum that's happening, right? So it's exactly right. It's a marketing, it's many things, right? Quality of life, health, recreation, but it's also an economic development tool that, again, we need to stick with it, right? Let's not just do it once, and we might get a little bit of people initially, but you over the long run.
it'll create a snowball effect, and it will grow with time.
Mr. Garcia.
And I'll be very, very honest. I dream of a place where somebody comes for Socorro Sundays in the morning, stays over for a softball game in the afternoon, and stays over for music at night. That's cool. Those are things that I look at. Maybe we can do it all right now because we can't, but it's the plans that this council, I think, believes in, and we're gonna do it one way or another.
Start.
Right? Thank you.
Thank you all.
Cesar Nevares.
Yes.
Alejandro Garcia.
Aye.
Rudy Cruz.
Yes.
And Ivan Colombia.
Yes.
Item 43, discussion and action to approve the Texas Department of Housing and Cultural Affairs Housing Assistance Fund Program Contact and Intake Center.
Motion to approve?
Second.
May I have the floor for 2 seconds?
Just
Thanks. 2 seconds, that's it. First and foremost, I want to take the time to thank the staff for moving forward with this item. The whole purpose of the Texas half was to help Texans across the state, from region to county and to city. So when I first heard about this program, I said the only way that Socorro is going to make a huge impact in our community is to take advantage of the Texas half, but bring it home. And how do we bring it home? We establish an intake processing center, and the staff has stuck with it. I know I threw more work on their table, but I appreciate the effort and the time taken. I know it's been several of the teams meetings, and you guys have sat through them time and time again, and I appreciate that. And you guys have done an excellent job, and you're now seeing the final product of their work. And I'll let Mr. Reta go ahead with the rest of the presentation.
Good afternoon, Mayor Pro Tem and Council. As District Representative Mr. Cruz said, this has been quite a long journey, if you will, to get this program in place. As you're seeing before you, as well as in your backup, we are asking for council's blessing to go ahead and not only create the intake positions, but also get the green light to go ahead and submit the application to apply for funds to go ahead and bring that intake center into Socorro. Just to recap what this program does is it allows applicants to request funds to pay their back owed or delinquent property taxes, housing insurance, or actual mortgage payments. So if they are delinquent and they suffered it because of a loss of wages or because they fell susceptible to COVID, they are eligible for this relief. We are requesting that our community centers be used as intake centers, not one but both. Reason being is that we do have runoff elections coming in the month of April and May, and we wouldn't want this program to stop just because Chayo is being used for elections. So our goal is not only to create accessibility at Rio Vista, but also Chayo, as well as utilizing our partners. As my employee will go ahead and share the slide, we did create an entire program to create deliverables, key performance indicators, as well as a budget to request from the state in order to hire temporary employees to assist us in the intake of the applications. It is a fairly easy process. We've gone through it a couple of times already with some citizens here in Socorro. We are letting the state know that we are capable of promoting the entire program to the entire county of El Paso. We would not only take care of Socorro, but we would reach out to Horizon, El Paso, Vinton, San Anisario, Clint, Fabens, Tornillo. We've seen it before with our COVID programs. There is a great need here in the entire county. We are also going to increase our transportation for our residents to go ahead and bring them into our community centers. However, we are also going to ask for the assistance of Project Amistad to bring in anyone outside of our city to our intake center. We are also going to work with the Workforce Borderplex Solutions to request financial literacy classes to be offered as part of the continuing education program to assist in housing, as well as Project Bravo. And we are also asking to create an electronic job board to assist anyone who's unemployed and looking for future funds. Our entire program has already been created. We've already looked at days, times, dates, budget, items that we need. We've created the job description, and with council's blessing, we are ready to go. We did present the draft contract / proposal to legal, which was approved for the agenda, and like I mentioned, we're ready to proceed.
Thank you.
That's good. Great.
Cesar Nevares.
Yes.
Alejandro Garcia.
Aye.
Rudy Cruz.
Yes.
And Ivan Colombia.
Yes.
Item number 44, public hearing on written charge to remove Jasmine Mendoza from the Board of Adjustments, Place 3.
Motion to approve.
It is 8:50 and public hearing is now open.
No speakers, Mayor Pro Tem.
It is 8:50 and public hearing is now closed. Item 45, discussion and action on approval to remove Jasmine Mendoza from the Board of Adjustments, Place 3, City of Socorro, Texas.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Cesar Nevares.
Yes.
Alejandro Garcia.
Aye.
Rudy Cruz.
Yes.
And Ivan Colombia.
Yes.
Item number 46, discussion and action to identify incentives that will establish long-term commitment from committee and board members.
Thank you, Mr. Reyes. So just tonight, we've seen 2 removals from board members or people who once held a position on a commission. So, and identifying the issue, I felt that we should identify a solution. And by that, I mean identifying the incentives that would establish a long-term commitment here, because we've struggled here in Socorro with maintaining folks that are willing to come after hours. We understand that they have a life. They go to work from 8 to 5, and they got to drive from the other side of the city to make it here to a meeting in the afternoon at 6 p.m. So what I was having in mind is, as we sit up here as elected officials for the city, and we're providing a job where these individuals are providing a service. And what do they get from it? They get backlash from the people, because we put them in these seats to make decisions for our community. yet they don't receive anything. So I feel that maybe this council can come up with ideas. And again, I'm completely open to ideas from the council members as well as the staff. I was thinking maybe if, again, I'm going to ask Mr. Martinez here about the issuance of some type of incentive in the form of a gift card of some sort for fuel or even a meal. If we can cover a meal here, let's get them a nice polo shirt. That way they can wear their polo shirt representing the commissioner board that they serve on, and things of that nature. And that's what I wanted to bring to this council here for approval.
Ms. Villalobos?
Thank you, Mr. Cruz, for bringing this item. I think about 2 years ago, I brought something similar to it, but my thing was giving them, 40, 35, 50 bucks. Council turned it down. And I did speak to some of these board members, and, the old school, the old mentality, it's your civil duty, so you shouldn't be charging. But you don't understand that life is very expensive, and they have to use their own gas, their own time, study the material, So I never brought up gift cards or anything. I brought up, monetary, because that's exactly what they wanted. That's the several board members that I spoke to. That's what they wanted. So I want to thank you for bringing the item. I completely support it, and I hope that you council members do too.
I appreciate that, and we don't have to necessarily make a decision as to how we want to incentivize. I'd like just, for us to move forward. Staff, if you would come back with maybe some ideas, and you all as well, provide that feedback, I think that would help a lot.
And I think what's important today is to decide whether we approve on this, and then you guys can always come back and provide some feedback as to what it is we could do.
Because the budget did decrease by $8,000 tonight.
Well, and that's perfect timing, right? Because the budget workshops are coming up, so we can allocate the funding, multiply all the members for all the meetings that we're gonna have throughout the year, and come up with a solid number. Yes.
Motion to approve?
Second.
Ms. Cruz?
Thank you, Ms. Navarro. Commissioner, I've served on 2 commissions. I've served on the Civil Service Commission, and I'm currently serving on the Planning and Zoning Commission. And I know you mentioned a polo. I dress better than this, okay, when I go to my meetings. Today, I just wanted to be very comfortable because I knew it was going to be a long one. I personally don't need an incentive. I've been going to the Planning and Zoning meetings for years. I think I started in 2013, 14, I don't know. It's been many, many years. And for many, many years, I wanted to join that commission. And there wasn't an opening, or when there was, they were appointing other people. And so I appreciate Mr. Reyes, who appointed me, because I'm very happy there. The other issue with me personally was that I wanted to serve on multiple commissions. I understand that I'm not your typical commissioner, that others are may not be as passionate or may not be as interested in the material, and that you all have a hard time finding people. But I just personally don't think the incentive is the way to go. I personally, 1, because I don't need it, and 2, because I do think it's a civic duty. And so I wanted to say that, because sometimes y'all approve people who have never even attended a single meeting. And that's in their application. And to me, that shows that they're not interested. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Cruz.
Thank you.
And Ms. Cruz brings up a good point towards the end. She brought up a good point. One of the things is that if you don't attend, you don't get the incentive that day, or whatever it is,
Yeah, I think I don't know who I told, but there has to be like a consistency for them. Like, I attended 5 meetings, I attended 10 meetings, per se, where we're like, just be there and be active. Because there's a lot of, watching those meetings are, right now, it's very nice to have a full quorum. Things are getting done. I know in the historical, there was like 7-month layover. There's no way we should be doing stuff like that, We just shouldn't, that shouldn't happen on our watch. So, it would be great if everybody, it's like voting. If everybody voted, we would have different things, but it just doesn't work that way sometimes. But incentivizing people to get there then that's a way to do it.
And again, that's a start.
True.
Cesar Nevares.
Yes.
Alejandro Garcia.
Aye.
Rudy Cruz.
Yes.
And Ivan Colom Villalobos.
Yes.
Item number 47, discussion and action to approve the amendment of Ordinance 320, Amend 4, an ordinance establishing procedures and rules of conduct of the Socorro City Council and all City of Socorro boards and commissions.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Thank you.
So the current charter states all ceremonial items or proclamations to be presented before the presentation segment of the agenda. And I'm finding it more common that in almost every meeting, there's always a motion to move a certain item up because it's a presentation like we did tonight for the redistricting and things of that nature. The only reason that we can get away from having to make those motions to have to move items up and I think it's just, it's easier for us to conduct business here on the table is by amending the ordinance, which is Ordinance 320, Amendment Number 4, to place all presentation ceremony items at the very top of the list, whether it be from a board, a commission, or even a presenter from the outside. That's the agenda item that I wanted to present tonight to you all.
And we have a speaker for this item, Ms. Cruz.
I know we're all trying to get out of here. Thank you, Ms. Navarro. The only reason I wanted to speak on this is because it did include the city board and commission, and so as a commissioner, I'd like to be part of the conversation if the way that we're going to conduct our meetings is going to be changed. And so I think that all the commissions should have a say because all commissions are a little bit different. And so I just wanted to bring that up, and that's the only reason. But obviously, whatever saves time and whatever is most efficient for these meetings and other meetings is always best. Thanks.
Ms. Villalobos?
And just to be clear, changing the ordinance doesn't necessarily stop us from moving other items up if we need to. For example, when we have like new board members that we don't want them sitting here all day or through the whole meeting. Something like that.
It does not, no. I mean, this would change really the way the order in which the items are published on the agenda, but council still retains authority to modify the final version of the agenda that's published.
Okay. Alrighty. Thank you.
Cesar Nevares.
Yes.
Alejandro Garcia.
Aye.
Rudy Cruz.
Yes.
And Ivan Colom Villalobos.
Yes.
Item number 48, discussion and action to direct staff to create a marketing plan with electronic signature for municipal needs and allow for advertising opportunities to external agencies.
Motion to approve?
Second.
Me or you, Victor?
Either one.
You first.
Good afternoon, Mayor Pro Tem and Council. Staff was in a meeting with Councilmember Ms. Ivan Colom Villalobos to discuss marketing strategies and thought it would be a great idea to place it before the council to get some feedback on what initiatives we could do to not only support all the programming we've discussed in terms of athletics, but also economic development, municipal announcements, and we started discussing the idea of a billboard or a marquee. If you look in your backup, you will see some examples of what we were referencing. You have something such as this, which is a small municipal marquee. You are able to do a few things or a few options which would determine your price. Number one would be if you want it in color. Number two would be if you want any logos on it. As far as my professional and personal opinion would be the last one. This is a really great example of something that can be done at our entryway to kind of welcome the residents or visitors into the city of Socorro. It is a huge horizontal light-up LED billboard that would go ahead and not only do announcements for upcoming events, initiatives, meetings, campaigns, recruitment for commissioners, but we can also utilize economic development initiatives to also assist in any kind of upcoming workshops, grants, or campaigns that the city might have. We can also use it as a developmental tool to also increase our awareness to recruit more businesses to come into the city, and there's a lot more potential for us to go ahead and use this tool. Staff is recommending that we, with your approval, are allowed to research and bring back some numbers based on what it is each of you or the consensus would like to see in the city.
Mr. Garcia?
Where will we put this?
That is something that is also up to the commissioners. I would suggest at our main entry points or high traffic areas. I do want to note that we did speak to Clear Channel, which is one of the main broadcasting companies here in the county. Their electronic billboards are something that is available. However, we will never own it. They would allow us to put a billboard here in town. However, it would be their property and they would regulate what can and can't go on it. And they did not say they would give it to us for free either.
Ms. Rodarte?
Yes, so the reason of this item is we want to make sure how many, the size, and what locations. That way we can really go out there and really find you prices and what is it that we're looking for. Is it more something like Victor, which I feel like that's very,
This is like pie in the
his
sky.
dream is
and
big.
goal.
We need to
So-
shorter his dream.
And are we looking at North Loop and Rio Vista, or are we looking in front here? What do you guys suggest?
Correct, so first thing is how many?
May I? Okay.
Ms. Villalobos?
I'm sorry. So I had said, I would love 4 because we have 4 entrances. Yes, 4 because we would utilize Nuevo Waco Tanks and North Loop as 1 because that's where Socorro starts. But also one of the things that I don't know if you caught on is this billboard can also be used to Amalgame, so tired.
Advertisement.
Yes, advertisement, so.
Attract and.
Pay for itself?
Pay for itself, and the maintenance of it. And so, I love this one right here, because we have no limits as to
Correct,
what
so I just want to
Caution.
caution, because we are a tax exempt, we're not here to profit from any of the things that we're placing, right? We're not here to make a profit, we're here to provide a service. That doesn't mean that we can't do a facilities request in order for a business to promote, but we just need to be careful that we're not in the business of advertising, right? We're not creating our own company.
Does that mean we can still generate funds?
What I would recommend is to allow staff to go out and bring you a recommendation of exactly what it is that we can and cannot do.
Okay.
Okay, but not for that purpose, right? You wanted to, for all the items that Mr. Reta kind of stated. And then if possible, then yes, we can, venture out to that.
If I can add to that, yeah, in general, I mean, city funding has to be used for a public purpose. I don't think I can think of an example specifically that I've heard of or encountered where a city has purchased or created its own sign, used public funds to create a sign, to buy a sign. I'll look, certainly. Intuitively, I mean, it doesn't seem too far-fetched. I can see how that's a public service. There's a public interest in that. It seems, off the top of my head, like an appropriate use of public funds. And I'll confirm that. But the point is, assuming that's an appropriate use of public funds, and then you were to let others use it, that is a service you're providing, right? And you can't, like all our fees, the city's fees should be set at a rate that covers the cost for the city to provide that service and no more.
And that's where I was headed, for maintenance. And I don't know if, some of those funds could be allocated for a program within the city. So, that's what I need you guys to explore.
Yeah, you probably have some discretion about where it goes, whether it goes to the general fund or a segregated, what the municipal accountants call an enterprise fund, but that's probably discretionary. But the threshold issue is, let me confirm that it's an appropriate use of public funds.
Gotcha.
It's novel enough that I don't know that it's been done before.
Mr. Cruz?
Yeah, so it'd be no different than what a church does every Sunday with their bulletin and promoting the businesses, and for a sponsorship fee to the nonprofit of the city, we will display your business on our community marquee or billboard of that nature, right? Yes, no?
Yeah, I think the answer is yes. And again, it depends on, who's advertising and for what purpose. One of the things the city we know can do is promote public health, safety, and welfare, right? And we're talking about kind of an equivalent of ciclovia. Well, I mean, surely you could advertise, it would be appropriate to advertise or to identify the gyms that are available be joined in Socorro, or something like that. So there's probably a lot of different permutations of that.
Do we need a motion?
So right now you want to identify the four?
I think the size of the billboard, if there's 4, is going to be dependent on the actual location. You'll have some obstructions on certain streets. You'll have different angles that may not portray the image you want.
Agreed. Staff would also show you a proposal based on the height. If we're looking at something that you want to see from a car as opposed to something that you would see with no obstruction, as Representative Cruz mentioned, we can also propose locations that are available to the specific size and dimension that are available, as well as compare that to the cost of the item.
So I'll amend my motion to approve with staff going out and bringing all the information needed to make the right decisions on the 4 arteries, including signage, size, and any other information needed to make the right decision.
Second.
Motion to approve with the changes.
Cesar Nevares.
Yes.
Alejandro Garcia.
Aye.
Rudy Cruz.
Yes.
And Ivan Colom Villalobos.
Yes, thank you.
Mr. Martinez, do you have any items for 49 to 52?
Yes, sir, we do. There is an item for 52. I will
52.
warn the council. It might take a while. I don't know if it's time sensitive.
It's not, I mean,
we can make it as fast and easy, and I think that they can come out and say, no, we'll save it for another night. The decision is going to be not that.
As I said, it won't take very long.
Motion to go into executive?
Second?
Cesar Nevares.
Yes.
Alejandro Garcia.
Aye.
Rudy Cruz.
Yes.
And Ivan Colom Villalobos.
Yes.
It is now 9:10.
Item number 52, discussion and action regarding request to annex properties.
Motion to deny.
Second.
Cesar Nevares.
Yes.
Alejandro Garcia.
Aye.
Rudy Cruz.
Aye.
And Ivan Colom Villalobos.
Yes.
Do we have a motion to delete 49 through 51?
Motion to delete 49 through 51.
Second.
Cesar Nevares.
Yes.
Alejandro Garcia.
Aye.
Rudy Cruz.
Yes.
And Ivan Colom Villalobos.
Yes.
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
Meeting adjourns at
Cesar Nevares.
Yes.
Alejandro Garcia.
Aye.
Rudy Cruz.
Yes.
And Ivan Colom Villalobos.
Yes.
This meeting adjourns at 9:30 p.m.
It fell off again.
Does it screw it or just?
I don't know.
He keeps biting it off.